That would probably shorten the public comment. That's my.
Good morning. We'll now call this council meeting to order. We ask that if you have a cell phone, if you'd be so kind at this time to put it on silent, mute, or off, be greatly appreciated. At this time, we'll be led in prayer by Madam Clerk, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk.
O God of might, wisdom and justice, through whom authority is rightly administered, laws enacted and judgment decreed, assist us, we beseech thee, that this city council may be conducted in righteousness and be eminently useful to thy people over whom we preside. Amen. I pledge allegiance.
Before we do the roll call, just want to inform you if you would like to speak to members of council, please make sure you sign your name and your address at the sign-in sheet at the podium. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Councilors Morgan,
Present.
Roots,
Present.
Mayor Kirkland.
Present. We open up the podium for public comments on action items only. If you have a comment, we ask that you would state your name, your address, and your public comment on the action items only.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Lydia Smith, 930 18th Street. Just item resolution number 3. Can you explain what that is?
Yes. Our zoning hearing board has engaged a new court reporting service. That's the court reporting service. Zoning board, zoning hearing board.
Good morning. My name is Rosemarie Halt, and I'm with Children's First PA, 990 Spring Garden Street. Good morning, Mayor and council members, and thank you for the time to speak today on this important ordinance to protect children from lead paint poisoning in the city of Chester. Children's First PA works to improve the lives of our region's children by developing initiatives and advocating for quality health care, child care, public education, and family stability. Since 2008, Children's First has facilitated the Delaware County Lead Poisoning Prevention Coalition, comprised of a cross-section of public and private entities that are committed to eliminating lead poisoning in Delaware County. Lead poisoning can cause permanent brain damage to children, especially children under 6 years of age. Lead can cause learning, behavior, hearing, and speech problems. Lead paint hazards in homes, primarily rental units, are the main source of lead poisoning. Lead paint was not banned in residential use until 1978, and 89% of the residential properties in Chester were built before 1980. Some public health facts to think about for the city of Chester. Approximately 26% of the children tested for lead, and that means that not all children were tested for lead in the city of Chester were poisoned between 2005 and 2015 were 2,447 children out of 9,276 tested. This rate is 8 times higher than the children poisoned in Flint, Michigan at the peak of the city's crisis. In Delaware County, 5.5 times more Black and Hispanic children are poisoned than white children. A few weeks ago, I attended City Council meeting where many residents were concerned about toxic substances being transported by rail, which is a very legitimate concern given the recent derailments. However, there is a toxic substance in many homes that can make children ill with lifelong consequences. Childhood lead poisoning is 100% preventable, primarily by removing lead paint-based hazards in homes. We urge you to act today to prevent childhood lead poisoning for all children in the city of Chester. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holt. And just, I guess that was right on time. We are today going to. Thank you, Ms. Holt. We are today looking at moving forward on an ordinance that deals with just that subject. So thank you for providing us with that information today. Thank you.
Good morning, all. My name is Nasia Hill. I'm from the Office of Housing Community Development in Delaware County. I administer the lead hazard reduction program in Delaware County. Thank you so much. I've been running the lead program for about 3 years now, and our main goal is to try to prevent childhood lead poisoning by remediating the lead with a group of lead safe contractors. I think so far we've remediated 3 homes in Chester at about $70,000 over the past 2 years. I just want to say hello to everybody. Let everyone know I'm available if you need any help, have any questions. I can answer anything you want to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your presence of both of you here today as we move forward in this issue and actively pursue removing all lead from our homes in our community. And with your help, we can do just that. Mr. Fisher.
Good morning. I guess we're going to hammer home this topic. I'm also here to speak to Article 1716. So I'm Steve Fisher with the Chester Housing Authority, and I'm also here representing the Delaware County Lead Poisoning Prevention Coalition. And so as you know, I represent federally assisted housing. Going back to the 1990s, the federal government put money behind the eradication of lead in public housing. But to this day, most municipalities, including those in Delaware County, have not addressed the issue. Tragically, lead poisoning, as has already been mentioned, is not a thing of the past and is causing brain damage in young children with deleterious physical and mental health impacts that follow them through life. So that goes without saying. Well, a little math first. The United States only banned lead-based paint 45 years ago, 1978. Pennsylvania is an old state, and as we are wont to say, Chester is what? The first city. So it goes without saying that Chester has a lot of old buildings. I won't bog you down with statistics today because I only have 3 minutes, and what I'm leading to is good news anyway. But it is worth mentioning for the record that almost 7,000 children across the Commonwealth test positive every year, 250 of them in Delaware County, and Chester is a hotspot. And since we're here in Chester, it's worth mentioning that children of color are disproportionately affected because they are more likely to live in older properties with peeling, uninspected paint. In Delaware County, as I think Ms. Holt mentioned, five and a half times more children who are Black and Hispanic are poisoned than white children. Lead poisoning is an environmental justice issue. The good news is that lead poisoning is preventable. The even better news today is that you, the Chester City Council, will introduce into legislation a first and big step forward toward tackling this silent but dreaded poison. I and representatives of the coalition are here today to support your action and thank you for being proactive on this critical issue for Chester children.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher, and thank all of you who are concerned and interested in the health and well-being of our young people, as well as our older citizens, especially when it comes to this lead paint issue.
All right. Hi, I'm Adrienne Wood, and I'm from the Center of Excellence in Environmental Toxicology at the University of Pennsylvania. We are the University of Pennsylvania's Environmental Health Core Science Center, and we are funded by the National Institute of Environmental Health Science. I would like to focus today on the well-established medical science that confirms irreversible serious health effects from exposure to lead. Thousands of research articles on lead exposure document its health effects on children in the first few years of life. Young children who put their hands and other items in their mouth can easily be exposed to very large amounts of lead. Once in the body, lead kills nerves in the brain and leaves others with slow conduction, interfering with thinking and behavior. Lead blocks the production of hemoglobin, leading to anemia and the inability to carry oxygen throughout the body. This leads to fatigue and a lack of energy. Researchers at our center have found that early life exposure leads to lasting sleep disruption. Having good quality sleep is essential to health, well being, and learning. Our researchers have documented decreased IQ and behavioral problems in lead exposed children. Studies of school children in Chicago have found that children with blood lead levels at the CDC reference level of 5 micrograms per deciliter have lower test scores in reading and math when tested in the third grade. Recognizing that these children have been robbed of their full academic potential and that there is no safe blood lead level, the CDC has lowered the reference level for blood lead to 3 micrograms per deciliter. The state has not yet reported the number of children in Chester whose blood lead levels are 3 micrograms per deciliter, but they project that the number will double. The consequences of decreased learning are lifelong, explaining in part the achievement gap of children in neighborhoods with the most dilapidated housing. There is no effective treatment once a child has been exposed to lead. The damage is permanent. Primary prevention by eliminating exposures to lead has been shown to be the most effective strategy for reducing blood lead levels and the harm caused to children. Peeling lead paint has been found to be the most significant exposure to lead to children in our region. Chester is the oldest city in Pennsylvania. Much of its housing dates to post-World War II era and before, certainly painted with lead paint and most likely multiple coats of lead paint. 63% of housing units in Chester are renter occupied, according to the U.S. Census data. The needed action to protect children from ongoing lead exposure is the proactive identification of lead hazards in the home prior to children moving in or spending time there. The Philadelphia Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Advisory Group in 2017 recommended expanding lead-safe certification to all rental units. Philadelphia accomplished this in 2019, and there are currently over 90,000 lead-safe certified rental units in Philadelphia. Chester should pass this legislation too. Whether children are living in a rental unit, visiting one, or having childcare provided in one, their lead exposure would be significantly reduced. The effectiveness of lead-safe certification of rental properties has been shown in Rochester, New York, where an ordinance established in 2005 requiring lead-safe certification in all rental properties was associated with a yearly rate of decline of elevated blood lead levels 2 times faster than the state as a whole. The science has shown that in addition to the permanently altered quality of life of lead-poisoned children, many other costs are borne by all residents of Chester through increased costs of special education, medical care, loss of lifetime earnings and productivity, and increased involvement in the legal system. We urge Council to enact this law to protect the most vulnerable in Chester, reduce the academic gap, and provide the opportunity for Chester children to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. With all of your support and all of your help and all of your providing us with all this education, our goal is to, and the hope is to make sure that Chester City becomes a lead-free community. So thank you for all of your presentations and your support to our community. Madam Clerk?
Resolution. Whereas the following individuals have requested a handicap parking zone. Number 1, Wilbur H. Carson, 1904 West 4th Street, Chester, PA 19013. Number 2, Angela Bannister, 465 Jeffrey Street, Chester, PA 19013. Number 3, Joyce Payne Jones, 947 East 14th Street, Chester, PA 19013. Number 4, Joyce McLaughlin, 1334 Renshaw Road, Chester, PA 19013. And number 5, Margaret Wilburn, 1023 Butler Street, Chester, PA 19013. Whereas, after a thorough investigation by the Department of Public Works, it has been determined the aforementioned individuals have met all of the required criteria and have a need for said handicap parking zone. Now therefore, the council of the city of Chester does resolve that it does hereby authorize the proper city officials to install a handicap parking zone in the 900 block of West 4th Street, in the 400 block of Jeffrey Street, in the 900 block of East 14th Street, in the 1300 block of Renshaw Road, and in the 1000 block of Butler Street in the city of Chester.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions? Madam Clerk?
Councilors Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Resolution. The Council of the City of Chester does resolve that it does hereby ratify the appointment of the following individuals to the position of Fire Cadet, Chester Bureau of Fire, Department of Public Safety, effective April 6, 2023, at an hourly rate of $15 per hour on a per diem basis, not to exceed 40 hours a week with no benefits. Thomas Sessa, Ryan Ranieri, Jeremy McCanns, Matthew Hatton. Further, that the employment of said individuals as fire cadets for the city is contingent upon satisfactory completion of all training, evaluations, and testing required to graduate the Fire Academy courses that apply to skills required by the Chester Fire Department. Further, upon graduation, said employment with the city as an apprentice firefighter shall be based upon availability. Further, if employed as a firefighter for the city of Chester, said individuals are required to reside in the city of Chester for the first 5 years of employment. Any firefighter not residing in the city of Chester must do so within 90 days of their date of hire as a permanent employee and must submit proof of residency to the Human Resource Department.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions? Madam Clerk?
Councilors Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Resolution. The Council of the City of Chester does resolve that it does hereby engage the services of U.S. Legal Support to provide court reporting services to the Chester Zoning Hearing Board on an as-needed basis in accordance with the terms and conditions as detailed in the proposal dated February 28, 2023. Further, it does hereby authorize the proper city official to execute the necessary documents to finalize the engagement. Further, all agreement documents are contingent upon final approval of the city solicitor.
So moved.
I second.
Are there any questions? Madam Clerk?
Councilor Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Resolution. The Council of the City of Chester does resolve that it does hereby authorize the proper city official to prepare specifications for the advertisement of bids for the following. Number 1, 2023 Summer Food Service Program. Further, it does authorize the city clerk to advertise for the aforementioned bids.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions? Madam Clerk?
Councilors Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Resolution. The Council of the City of Chester does resolve that it does hereby authorize the proper city official to prepare an advertisement for positions for the following. Number 1, 2023 Memorial Park Pool Monitors and Lifeguards. Further, it does hereby authorize the proper city officials to advertise said positions in the Delaware County Daily Times and the city's website.
So moved.
I second.
Are there any questions? Madam Clerk?
Councilors Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Resolution. Whereas the city of Chester entered into a parking lot lease agreement, the parking agreement dated November 11th, 2023, with Rivertown Developers LP and BPG LP 8 Seaport P4 LP for use of a parcel of land, folio number 49-10-00608-00, also known as Lot 4. And whereas BPGLP 8 Seaport P4 LP desires to convey Lot 4 to its affiliate Union Sportsplex LLC for the construction of a sportsplex. And whereas the parking lot lease agreement prohibits certain uses of said property without the city's prior consent. And whereas the city is eager to increase the economic development along the waterfront district. Now therefore the council of the city of Chester does resolve that it does hereby approve the transfer of ownership of that certain parcel identified as Delaware County Tax Folio number 49-10-00608-00, also known as Lot 4, from BPGLP 8 Seaport P4 LP to its affiliate, Union Sportsplex LLC. Further, it does approve the assignment of the parking agreement from BPGLP 8 Seaport P4 to Union Sportsplex LC for commencement of construction of the Sportsplex on Lot 4 prior to the parking agreement expiration date of November 10th, 2023, subject to terms and conditions as outlined in the contained within this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions?
No questions, just a comment on this resolution. This pretty much, as read by Madam Clerk, the resolution is to some degree, what's the word I'm looking for? Get us out of the agreement with the Sportsplex so that they can start their project of developing a parking lot for the new Sportsplex that's going down on 291. So if you haven't driven on 291 as of recent, you'll see that a lot of the trees and debris is cleared up so that they can start their project. In May, actually this month in April, you'll see a lot more big Tonka trucks and Cat trucks down there as they're going to start their project in May to start building their sport fields, the soccer fields and the cross fields and things like that, and also the parking lots. And then in 2024, I believe the field house should be completed. So this is just a step moving the council looking to move forward with the steps to add another asset to our waterfront to hopefully be able to allow more of the residents and some of our young people to not only to walk down to the waterfront, but to be able to play legally on the fields through tournaments and things like that as well. So that was it.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk?
Councilors Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, one moment. It appears that we skipped.
Did we?
Skipped the resolution. I
Yep.
think it's number 4. The advertisement.
I read that.
Which one was it, Councilman? 5? Number 5.
Okay.
Memorial Park pool monitors and lights.
Pools.
Yep.
I read that too.
You read that too?
I read that.
Which one you got, Councilman?
Prepare notice for advertisement for the summer food service program. It was,
I read that.
you read the one for the RFP.
Okay, I read one about the summer food program. Okay, it was one missing.
Number 60.
Number 60. Okay. Resolution. The Council of the City of Chester does resolve that it does hereby authorize the proper city official to prepare a notice for advertisement of the City of Chester's 2023 Summer Food Service Program. Further, it does hereby authorize the proper city officials to advertise said notice in the Delaware County Daily Times and any other social media outlet used for official city business.
So moved.
I second.
Are there any questions? Madam Clerk?
Councilors Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Resolution. Whereas Veterans Memorial Park, located at 7th and Ingle Streets, parcel number 491000437700, hereinafter referred to as Memorial Park, is owned by the city and has experienced long-time flooding problems. And whereas the Stormwater Authority of the City of Chester, hereinafter referred to as Authority, proposed the construction of a regional stormwater control basin, also known as the Veterans Memorial Park Regional Stormwater Facility, VMPRSF, or Stormwater Facility, to target both flood control and water quality benefits in the area downstream between the existing railroad tracks and the Delaware River, which experiences flooding that impacts both structures and roadways. And whereas the VMPRSF will result in water quality improvements and reduce regional flooding by creating a stormwater basin designed as a wet pond that will add additional nutrient removal benefits, can hold and control the flow rate discharging to the railroad culvert, and will include a forebay for sediment/debris control. And whereas the VMPRF will be enhanced with improvements to integrate the stormwater facility into the park surroundings and provide interactive and educational opportunities to the community, and improvements that include a walking path, boardwalk and overlook, aeration fountains, lighting, and tree plantings. And whereas the authority desires to obtain from the city a permanent easement and permanent access easement, collectively easement, and the easement area shall run across, through, upon the surface of, over, and under a part of Memorial Park. Now therefore the council of the city of Chester does resolve that it does hereby authorize a permanent easement and permanent access easement to the Stormwater Authority of the city of Chester for the authority and its agents, and assign to have the right to gain permanent access to Veterans Memorial Park for the sole purpose of permitting the authority, its successors, and assigns to construct, reconstruct, install, repair, and maintain the stormwater facility, together with the walking path, boardwalk, and overlook, aeration fountains, lighting, tree plantings, and any other necessary appurtenances, collectively the stormwater improvements along and under Veterans Memorial Park, but not extending beyond the easement area of 6.02 acres, which includes the size of the stormwater basin and related improvements that comprise the VMPRSF.
So moved.
I second.
Are there any questions?
I've got some comments on this one. That was a lot of words to say. The Stormwater Authority wants to build a lake in Memorial Park for the purposes of controlling flooding. So basically what they want to do is mitigate flooding by adding more water to the park. It's going to, as this said, from pretty much the railroad tracks where the Martin Luther King statue is all the way to Ward Street and pretty much half of where the softball fields are, which would totally eliminate any further softball being played over in the park. There's good and bad of what they're proposing. The good is that they want to clean up the flooding water, make it a little cleaner before it gets out to the river. The bad is it doesn't have to be a lake to accomplish this. They mentioned in all these words what they're building is called a wet pond, a regional stormwater control basin. The important word there is basin. It doesn't have to be wet. It can be a dry basin. If you want to see an example of a dry basin, just go to 7th and Booth, where the new Access Center is. And right next to the Access Center is a hole in the ground that contains rainwater when the rainwater exceeds a normal rain. What's not mentioned here is the work that Delcora is doing to mitigate the flooding. They're putting in a pipe that will run right down Townsend Street that they admit will handle all the flooding at Memorial Park that currently exists and flooding downstream all the way down to the river. However, they do admit that it's not built for the 100-year flood. So I don't, it's really up to you guys. It says here that they want to provide interactive and educational opportunities to the community with improvements that include a walking path, boardwalk, and overlook, fountains, lighting, and tree planting. If that's what you want, let us know when you come up for public comment that this is exactly what you want in Memorial Park. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm going to say it's going to be beautiful. I've seen the drawings. What I'm saying, it's absolutely unnecessary, and it takes away from softball fields. We don't need a lake in our city, in my opinion. The Stormwater Authority in this says right here, they want the right to gain permanent access to Veterans Memorial Park. This is our park. This is the city park. This is a decision that, this is a city park, and we are the elected officials that have to decide what goes on in the park. I'll just tell you right now, we're not in total agreement, but I'd really like to hear from you guys to see if you want a lake in Memorial Park.
Thank you, Councilman. And I also have some comments. This is called controlled catch basin. It is not a lake. We've been going over this for the last few years, working with the Stormwater Authority. If you've ever been down Memorial Park when there's been a serious rain, you would see that it was great possibility for our young persons to actually drown in Memorial Park. That's how deep the water was getting there. Also, the water was also flooding the homes in that area on a constant basis. This catch basin, controlled catch basin, will alleviate most of, if not all of that, flooding. And it'll also be in a secure setting where our children don't have to worry about drowning. Also, Delcora has not spoken to this council about their proposal of alleviating the flooding in that area concerning pipes and what have you. They have not talked to the members of this council. Maybe they've talked to their employees and their workers, but there has been no conversation with us. And we have the designs that will show you that it will not impact the softball fields. We have been working on this issue for almost 3 years. And one of the big things we said, as a matter of fact, the hope is, and we're encouraging the Stormwater Authority to put some money and invest in beautifying the softball fields. I have the paperwork, and I'll be more than glad.
I'd love to see that.
And the plans. And I'll be more than glad to share them with those who would like to see them.
I'll make my comment brief, but I look at this as something to hopefully be able to remediate the problem. I don't know if it'll reduce the problem in its entirety, but I do think that it most certainly will help the problem. And for those residents over there who are really experiencing the issues on an ongoing basis when that area floods, there's a lot of people or there are some individuals who may not want this, but those individuals are the residents that are living in those households in that specific area. Like the mayor stated, one of the biggest things that we talked about was making sure that the size of the project did not remove the softball fields at Memorial Park. Initially, I don't think even the initial plans removed the softball fields, but we thought it was too the size of it was too big. So the Stormwater Authority came back and provided more, a size of I'm going to say a pond. That's what I'm calling it. That is was less than what it originally was. And then again, it'll beautify, most certainly beautify the Memorial Park. I do think it'll have some educational components to it. And I believe that this is a solution that the experts or those experienced within that field have brought to the city of Chester. I'm not an engineer. I'm not someone who has really much knowledge on ponds and rain and stormwater. But again, I lean towards those individuals who have that background, those certificates to provide that great insight and information to us all, so we can know what are the best steps for us to move forward. And with that data and with that information, knowing how if it fits for our liking. So Delcor is doing a project. But I don't believe Delcor's project, again, will remediate the issue that we have. So Delcor doing a project that they could have done 5 years ago or 10 years ago or even 15 or 20 years ago when the flooding was going on, just trying to do it in 2023 to appease some other people. That's great. You're budgeting for infrastructure improvements. Do what you're supposed to do. And at this point, I think just mayor and council, we need to look at other options to add to the already things that they're trying to do. So I support Delcor and what they're trying to do, and they also support anyone else, such as the Stormwater Authority, as far as what they're trying to do to remediate some of the issues that we have here in the city of Chester.
Thank you, Council. Madam Clerk?
Councilors Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
No.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Resolution. Whereas state and local governments, including the city of Chester, have been pursuing investigations and litigations against certain manufacturers, distributors, and retailers of opioid pharmaceuticals in an effort to hold the opioid defendants financially responsible for the significant financial impact the opioid epidemic created. And whereas negotiations to settle claims against several of the opioid defendants have been ongoing for several years, and whereas there is a new national opioid settlement with 5 new proposed national opioid defendants, and whereas in order to be a part of the settlement, the city of Chester has to submit a participation package. Now, therefore, the council of the city of Chester does resolve that it does hereby authorize the submission of the participation package as a part of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's participation against the 5 new proposed defendants in the new national opioid settlements. Further, it does authorize the mayor to sign any document pertaining to this settlement for and on behalf of the city of Chester.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions? Madam Clerk?
Councilors Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Bill number 3 on its first reading, April 12th, 2023. An ordinance. An ordinance of the city of Chester, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, of the codified ordinances of the city of Chester, 1978, as supplemented and amended to provide for the amendment of Article 925, entitled Refuse Collection, by amending the index to correct Section 925.04 to read as commingling ashes, garbage, and rubbish, by amending Section 925.021 entitled Fees, updating the cubic feet of refuse collection by updating subsection B and C of Section 925.023 entitled Delinquencies, by amending Section 925.04 entitled Commingling Ashes, Garbage, and Rubbish, providing for acceptable disposal method, by amending Section 925.05 entitled Acceptable Receptacles, providing for the responsibility of providing receptacles and description of acceptable receptacles, by amending subsection C and E and adding new subsections F and G of Section 925.07 entitled Refuse preparation for deposit or collection, providing for acceptable recycling containers and mattress placement by adding acceptable plastic bag placement, and for multifamily property owner receptacle placement by amending subsection C of section 925.08 entitled Receptacle, Lid, Sanitation, and Condition, providing for minimum receptacle requirements by amending subsection A and adding subsections C and D of section 925.10 entitled Receptacle, Placement for Collection, providing for the proper place receptacle placement, identifying responsible for waste prior to collection, and prohibiting privately contracted collectors from depositing municipal waste at the point of collection or in the right of way, amending subsections A and B of section 925.12 entitled Maximum Receptacles per Residential Unit, providing for the use of two 65-gallon refuse receptacles, amending section 925.13 entitled No Holiday Collection, providing for where to locate the holiday schedule, amending subsection D of section 925.15 entitled Separate Collection or Recyclable Items for Recycling Purposes, providing for the placement of recyclable items, amending subsection B of section 925.99 entitled Noncompliance, Remedy by City, Penalty, providing identification of the proper party to authorize the city to abatement of a violation and adding new sections 925.100 through 925.106, providing for private collection and disposal responsibility and collection, transportation, the identification of approved disposable facilities, the disposable of personal waste and hazardous waste as defined by the Pennsylvania Solid Waste Management Act, enforcement, ticket appeal requirements, severability, fines, violations, and penalties, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent therewith.
Good job. So moved.
Wow.
I second.
Are there any questions?
I do have a comment. We have one correction in what you read. We have it correct in the ordinance itself, but here we forgot to change two 65-gallon ordinances to 3, yes. So it's in the body of the ordinance that will not be read today, but in the portion you read, you mentioned 2. And I just want to make the comment that this is one of the first major moves mayor and council has made to address litter control in the city. This basically addresses how we put our trash out and how trash gets picked up. What she read a lot of is just what's changed from the old to the new, and then there's been a lot of stuff included. So, it's our responsibility to make sure you guys are familiar with this through education by making it available on the website for you to see. So if you have any questions about what has changed and how you put your trash out and how it's going to be picked up, a good piece of it is in this ordinance. We're really proud of the work because this was a lot of work between mayor and council to kind of take a fine-tooth comb. And like I said, it's really not a first stab, but a stab of being really serious about that portion of litter control that is contributed by how we put our trash out and how it's picked up.
And second to what Councilman said, all of the sections and subsections that was read really is updating the ordinance, and quite frankly, so that we can properly enforce the ordinance throughout the community, throughout the city of Chester. We're trying to remove the days or the trash days that you see your neighbors or residents putting out the trash bags just on the ground and allowing the rodents to go all through those. We're trying to remove the days that you see some metal trash cans and some 25-gallon trash cans. We're trying to really uniform the city, unify and uniform the city with this type of ordinance. And this is going to go along with what we plan to do with our American Rescue Plan, with some of the funds of the American Rescue Plan, as we're looking to provide all of the city residents, homeowner or owner occupied residents with receptacles, 65-gallon trash can receptacles. So in doing that, we wanted to update the ordinance and also provide more language in the ordinance as far as when you should put your trash out and when your trash can should be back in your yard and things like that, and how your recyclable should be separated from the waste trash. So all of that information is here. Like Councilman said, we have to make sure not only that we pass this ordinance, but we educate the community, the public about this ordinance. And I'm sure that we will do that as we move forward and provide everyone with those trash cans as well. So,
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk?
Councilors Morgan,
yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Bill number 4 in its first reading, April 12th, 2023, an ordinance. An ordinance of the codified ordinances of the City of Chester, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, 1978, as supplemented and amended to enact Article 1714, entitled Licensing Residential Rental Units, to provide for the establishment of rights and obligations of owners and occupants relating to residential rental units, to provide for registration, licenses, and appeals process, enforcement, and providing for the severability, repealer, codification, and effective date, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent therewith.
So moved.
I second.
Are there any questions?
I'll go.
Go
I'll
ahead,
go first.
Councilman.
In real simple terms, if you're a landlord, you absolutely want to get your hands on this and understand it. If you're a tenant, the same. This is a lot of updates to what we've done in the past for rental units.
And I'll add to that, as far as, in simple terms, we coming. If you a slumlord or a landlord that's not really taking ownership or responsibility of your property and allowing our residents to sit out there or have lead in your house, or you're not coming in to fix the plumbing and those types of issues, we're trying to provide more accountability and responsibility on those landlords as well, and hopefully having a more stronger database of how we get in contact with those landlords as well. So not just this ordinance, but some of the other ordinances that you'll see to come is really us trying to strengthen the laws that we have on the books, on how we kind of beautify the quality of living here in the city of Chester.
And even in more simpler terms, thank you, Chief Leitner, for helping us, for guiding us through this process, and helping us through this process as we put in place some rules and regulations that will help us better our community as a whole, and help put mechanisms in place that will help our residents have a better understanding of what their responsibilities are as well as this council. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Rhodes?
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland?
Yes.
Bill number 5 on its first reading, April 12th, 2023, an ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Chester, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, to enact new Article 1715, entitled Pre-Sale Inspection of Residential Properties and Units of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Chester, 1978, as supplemented and amended to provide for the purpose and intent of requiring an inspection of all residential properties and units prior to the transfer of title, and providing for the compliance and abatement of violations, guarantee, severability, fees, and penalties for real property within the City of Chester, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent therewith.
So moved.
A second.
Are there any questions?
We'll comment again. This one is also related to property owners, and specifically the last one for landlords, this one for all property owners. So if you own a home, a store, you're looking to transfer or sell, there's a new process that we'll have to have you go through to improve public health and safety, just making sure that what you're selling, transferring is up to code.
Madam Clerk?
Councilors Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Bill number 7 on its first reading, April 12th, 2023. An ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Chester, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, repealing Article 1746, entitled Defaulted, Vacant, and Mortgage Property, in its entirety, and enacting new Article 1746 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Chester, Pennsylvania, 1978, as supplemented and amended entitled Defaulted, Vacant, and Abandoned Real Property, to provide for purpose, intent, and applicability, requiring the registration, inspection, maintenance, and security of certain real property by owners or mortgagees, providing for fees, penalties, and enforcement, as well as the regulation and reoccupancy of rehabilitated structures within the City of Chester, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent therewith.
So moved.
I second.
Are there any questions?
Blight, abandoned buildings. This is the start of, how'd you say it, Councilman?
I don't know
Coming,
where-
coming for you?
Oh, we coming.
We're coming. So this is really a strong start to address blight and abandoned buildings head on.
I didn't.
Once again, while we're waiting, thank you, Chief Leitner, for enlightening us and providing us with this information, these ordinances that'll help us better govern and maintain our community. It's because of your expertise and your support for this community that we're here today. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
I'm gonna go back to, did I get the vote already?
Number 4, lead.
I'm gonna go back to number 4.
Okay. We didn't read that.
Did we move on this?
The lead.
Did we move on this?
We moved them after we voted.
No.
No, we didn't vote on it yet, so we just got.
We didn't vote.
So we move on
There's
this,
no vote.
move on this, and
Okay.
then go back.
Councilors Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
Yes.
Kirkland, Mayor
Yes.
Kirkland. Okay.
Now back to 4.
Back to number 4. Okay, bill number 4 on its first reading, April 12th, 2023, an ordinance. An ordinance of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Chester, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, 1978, as supplemented and amended to enact Article 1714, entitled Licensing Residential Rental Units, to provide for the establishment of rights and obligations of owners and occupants relating to residential rental units, to provide for registration, licenses, and appeals process, enforcement and providing for the severability, repealer, codification, and effective date, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent therewith.
So moved.
I second it. Just for the record, I think you said it wrong, but I'm not sure if you did. But I just want to make sure this is bill number 6. I think you said bill number 4, but this is bill number 6. But I second.
This is bill
Item
number
4
4.
on the agenda.
Item 4 on the agenda, bill number 6.
Okay.
Yep.
4 on here too.
Are there any questions?
I'll comment that I'm really appreciative of all the people who spoke on behalf of this ordinance. It's kind of a no-brainer for us. Indoor lead is a big deal. Like you said, close to 90% of all the homes built in Chester were built before 1978. Chester has other issues with lead as well. We have a lot of lead in our soil, and thanks to lead being eliminated in gasoline in 1985, we don't have the issues with air and water as we did in the past. But we need to continue to stay conscious of lead. We need to continue to make the resources available that our children get tested on a regular basis. So that's the work that we have moving forward.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk?
Councilors Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Bill number 8 on its first reading, April 12th.
Mm-mm.
No?
We're gonna table that.
Table.
Okay, table that one.
ordinance agenda item number 6, bill number 8 is tabled.
Okay.
So we'll go on to
Bill number 9.
Bill number 9. Okay, bill number 9 on its first reading, April 12th, 2023. An ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Chester, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, of the codified ordinances of the City of Chester, Pennsylvania, 1978, as supplemented and amended, adopting the 2018 edition of the International Fire Code, including Appendix Chapters A, entitled Board of Appeals, Chapter B, entitled Fire Flow Requirements for Buildings, Chapter C, entitled Fire Hydrant Locations and Distribution, Chapter D, entitled Fire Apparatus Access Roads, Chapter E, entitled Hazardous Categories, and Chapter F, entitled Hazard Ranking, regulating and governing the safeguarding of life and property from fire explosion hazards arising from the storage, handling, and use of hazardous substances, materials, and devices, and from conditions hazardous to life or property in the occupancy of buildings and premises as herein provided, providing for the issuance of permits and collection of fees therefore, and each and all of the regulations, provisions, penalties, conditions, and terms of said fire code on file in the office of the Fire Marshal, City of Chester, Borough of Fire, are hereby referred to, adopted, and made part hereof, as fully set out in full in this ordinance, with additions, insertions, deletions, and changes, and repealing all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict therewith.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions? Madam Clerk?
Councilors Morgan,
Yes.
Roots,
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes.
Mayor, may I make a quick comment?
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Sure. Not to be redundant, and certainly I want to thank the mayor and council for all of these ordinances, but I really do believe a special shout out does go to Chief Leitner, to the fire commissioner, to the police chief, and to Gary from License and Inspection, without which that collaborative effort never would have happened.
That's correct. And thank you, Madam Clerk, for enduring.
Good job.
You did good.
Welcome.
You did good. At this time, we're going to have a proclamation for Building Safety Month.
Whereas the City of Chester is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of disaster. And whereas our nation benefits economically and technologically from using the international codes that are developed by a national voluntary consensus codes and standards developing organization, our government is able to avoid the high cost and complexity of developing and maintaining these codes, which are the most widely adopted building safety and fire prevention codes in the world. Whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our communities, largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials who assure us of safe, sustainable, energy efficient, and livable buildings that are essential to America's prosperity. And whereas prevent, prepare, protect, building codes save, the theme for Building Safety Month 2023 encourages all Americans to raise awareness about the importance of safe and resilient construction, fire prevention, disaster mitigation, energy conservation, water safety, training the next generation, and new technologies in the construction industry. Whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Thaddeus Kirkland, and the council members of the city of Chester do hereby proclaim the month of May 2023 as Building Safety Month.
Nice.
Hmm. Amanda got it.
Morning, Miss Amanda.
All right.
Mm-mm.
Oh, before we do this next presentation, I want to say thank you to our young people. You have been awesome. You've sat through all this, and you have been patient, you have been polite, and you've been poised, just like you are when you're out there doing your athletics. So we want to thank you for being able to sit through all of this. Thank you, thank you, thank you, young people. So now we have a citation for the Lady Clippers. Come on.
Whereas,
Where are they? Stand up, Lady Clippers. Come on. And there's their coach back there, Coach Shake. Give it up.
whereas the Lady Clippers achieved an amazing feat, winning the 4x200 meter relay at the state championships. Whereas, with only 3 athletes returning from last year's team, junior Alasia Mosley, and forgive me if I say your name wrong, sophomores Janaza Derry and Delea Alexander, and the new addition, freshman Demira Allen, ran a time of 1:43 minutes and 34 seconds. Whereas, with only 3 returning members, they were the youngest relay team in the competition and still brought the title home. Whereas 3 of the 4 girls, along with the help from freshman Kelly Naylor, won the 4x100 meter relay and ran the top time in the state of Pennsylvania, 48.44, on April 5th. Whereas sophomore Janasia Derry is in the top 5 in Pennsylvania in the 100 meter dash, 200 meter dash, and the 400 meter run. Whereas freshman Demira Allen is in the top 10 in the state in the 100 meter hurdles and 3rd in the 300 meter hurdles. Whereas junior Alasia Mosley is in the top 10 in the 200 meter dash. Whereas sophomore Delea Alexander is expecting to have another great season, and freshman Nia Jeffers is already jumping 5'4" feet coming into the outdoor season. Whereas the talented Lady Clippers are charging ahead and moving towards winning the overall team title at the state championships. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Thaddeus Kirkland, and the council members of the city of Chester do hereby celebrate the Lady Clippers on their achievements and on winning the 4x200-meter relay at the state championship.
He gonna say something.
Y'all know I'm shy. I appreciate all y'all for the recognizing, because it's about them. And, Chester not really known for track and field, but they've been doing this for a long time. I've been coaching a lot of these kids since they was like 5 years old. Like, I know y'all familiar with Damira. She broke like 12 world records, not even national. So they on a high level, and I'm proud of them. And that's why I push y'all the way I push y'all. So there it is.
Keep pushing them, coach.
I'll say I just got something brief. Standing up here, looking at the back of their shirts. It says, "We roll with our coach," with a wheelchair for the O. So, but listen, Coach Shake has been knowing Coach Shake for some years, and it doesn't matter what year it is. His team is always going to be competitive, and they always going to compete. They always going to some degree come out on top. So, shout out to you, Coach Shake, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep providing for these young folks, man. You're an inspiration to so many folks, man. Thank you.
All right, my turn. I got to say, I've been following the Cheetahs for years as a blogger. I'd go up to the A field and watch them run and just be amazed at the commitment that the very young ones had. Demir, I remember you lapping competitors on a 2-lap race. I mean, it was phenomenal to see what you could do at 8 years old, 9 years old. It was amazing. What else can we say? We're just so proud of the ladies in particular. I opened the newspaper and they had that big article about the big track meet that goes on in the county, and half of it features you guys. That's really extraordinary for track and field here in the city of Chester to be written in the Delaware County Daily Times, who always seem to take our sports, and if it's not the big sports, you kind of get the back page or even very little attention. And I have to say, I have a relative. He had 2 sons that ran on a team up in South Orange. And when he found out I was from Chester, the first thing he asked is, "Do you know the Chester Cheetahs? Because you guys used to beat their team's butt every meet that you guys met." So you guys are known well beyond Chester. Congratulations and good luck in your future.
Coach Shake, thank you for your unwavering support for our young people. Year after year after year after year, you step up to the plate and you just don't teach track or train them in the art of track, but you teach our young people how to be real young people. You teach them how to be respectful, how to care for one another, and how to be real teammates. And ladies, you are Chester. When folks want to talk Chester down, you talk the Cheetahs up. You are Chester, and we thank you for being a great representation of who we are. Next, we have purposeful performers. Donation.
So,
They got to dance your way up here.
they might have something for us. I don't know. So first off, I wanted to we're going to the city of Chester. We're going to be giving a donation to Purpose Performers, working really long, early mornings, long nights with the Amachi team, Mr. Jamar Daniels, who is there in the back. And I think Jamar, maybe the last council meeting, if not the one before, he spoke about a lot of the good work that they've been doing in the community over the last 2 or 3 years. And we mentioned how we were, I won't say fighting, but we've had a lot of conversations with the state to open a grant back up that we had some money left, pretty much left over. We had roughly about $80,000 plus left over within a grant, what is the grant called? PCCD grant. And like I know, like we all know, we don't want any money that can go to our community to just get thrown back in the pot. We want to make sure that we can find ways to exhaust all of those funds. And we know that we have organizations here in the community that can use those funds for uniforms, for registrations, anything to continue to take our children off the streets or provide them with additional resources or exposure to other things outside of basketball and football, whatever the case may be, though I love those types of sports. So Purpose Performers, run by Coach Tiana Caldwell, and some others. I almost slipped up and said it. Ms. Caldwell and others, they have been gathering young children in the city, in the community of Chester, teaching them ballet, dance, pop, hip hop, and so much more. They've been doing this work for many years, and we just want to be able to provide that organization with a donation of $5,000 so that they can continue to do the great work here in the city of Chester and hopefully be able to perform on the big stage, wherever that is, whenever that may come. So Tiana, can you and your team come up and so that we can present you with this check of $5,000? So we have a big fake check here. But we also have a physical check that I left in my office. So we'll make sure that we get.
Yeah, you better.
So, Jamar, you gotta come up with that. So Jamar has been seeking out the organizations that we wanted to provide assistance to here in the city of Chester. So I thank you for your hard work and brother.
Wait.
Oh, mic. Okay, because I'm pretty loud. Hey, can y'all hear me? Hi. I just want to thank the Amachi program in the city of Chester. We've been doing this is our 4th year. I just like to bring the arts to Chester. Arts has always been a part of my life. We just partnered with Rebel Arts, which is in Philadelphia, to bring tumbling and acro to our kids. So, yeah, we just are always pushing the arts and looking to give a great performance. We're actually looking to do our summer show pretty soon in our summer program. So there's a bunch of information, www.purposeperformers.com, about that coming out really soon. And if you want to get your kids involved, you can definitely contact us. Thank you, everybody.
Man. we're going to have a presentation or comment coming from a person from the Red Cross.
Good morning, everyone. Dwayne Lee from Parks, Recreation, and Public Property. Every year since I've been here, we've always partnered with Red Cross organization due to some sort of level, whether if it was certifications for first aid and AD, and also getting our lifeguards certified. But we have never, ever done something that we're about to do now. And I would like to introduce Ms. Dana James from Red Cross.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And good morning, Chester City Council members, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank you for having me here, Mr. Lee, and also Councilwoman Elizabeth Williams. Again, my name is Dana James. I am the area's account manager for the biomedical services portion of the American Red Cross, which means that I organize and partner with the community to hold blood drives so that we have a safe and adequate blood supply for our community. So you may think that might not affect you, but it actually does. So in this area, like Mr. Lee had mentioned, we service all of Delco, and in fact, my territory is Delaware County and the entire state of Delaware. It might seem weird, but Delaware County is the primary focus on blood collections. When I came into this territory 2 years ago, I realized that the city of Chester was completely underserved by the American Red Cross as far as having blood drives available to the public. So if someone from Chester wanted to donate blood, it was not convenient or easy. I'm trying to change that. And basically, and I'll go into it in a second, but the reason why I want to change that is because this area is extremely diverse. And when we have diverse communities, we have a lot more sickle cell cases. And sickle cell anemia or sickle cell disease is something that is incredibly important right now to discuss and educate our community members about. But also it's important to collect blood from donors who are Black or African American, because the treatment for sickle cell disease is actually blood transfusions. So consider it like an oil change for someone who has sickle cell disease. They need blood in order to get out of the sickle cell crises that they're in. So does anybody here, I know this is probably uncommon, but does anybody here know anyone with sickle cell disease? Yes, we all do, right? And once I held that first blood drive in Chester County or in Chester City, I started to speak with people, and the more I spoke with people, the more I connected with them and realized that somebody's aunt or somebody's son has passed away from sickle cell, or whatever their personal story was. I realized that there's an entire community of people that care about one another, and that is clearly evident by this entire meeting. Most of what was discussed are ways to improve Chester and ways to care about one another and lift each other up. One way that we can do that is by helping to make sure there is blood available for people with sickle cell disease. So thankfully, the city has agreed to host a blood drive, and we're going to be doing that on June 12th from 10 to 3. Okay, so like I said, we're trying to get into this community more and make ourselves more prevalent. Part of our mission is actually the entire mission, it's long, but the entire mission starts off by the American Red Cross is here to alleviate human suffering. And then it goes on and on and on to describe how we do that, but to alleviate human suffering. So we can do that in different ways. Obviously, if someone has a home fire, we're here for you. If the flooding that we discussed, if there are bad floods and someone is displaced out of their home, the American Red Cross comes. So it's really no different. The American Red Cross is here to partner with the city of Chester, and any business, any group or organization within Chester can hold a blood drive. Right now, currently, I wrote down a few that we have recently partnered with the Boys and Girls Club, which is actually how I met Mr. Lee. um, that's a phenomenal place. I mean, I had no idea in my community. I live about an hour north. In my community, we don't have an over 40s basketball league for people to connect and come together and be healthy and exercise. We don't have that. We happen to have a blood drive at the Chester City Boys and Girls Club during their basketball tournament, and I was relieved, number one, because we didn't have enough donors on schedule, but also amazed at how many people came out to donate. And then in talking with all of those donors, we were able to facilitate other areas that we can improve our, you know, exposure to Chester and different areas that we can run blood drives in. So we've worked with the Chester City firefighters. We just held a blood drive at the new Access Community Center, hoping to run more there. The company of Biamp, we're going to have a blood drive there. That's going to be open to the public as well, and they encourage everyone to come in and see the factory and see what they do there. They make speakers. Who knew? Their blood drive is on May 5th. The City Hall's blood drive is on June 12th. We have been partnering with Harrah's Casino, so we will hold blood drives at Harrah's Casino. The Philadelphia Union, we've done a lot with them. We hold blood drives at Crozier City Medical Center, at Widener University. We're looking to come together as a community and support not only just that one blood drive that you may be connected to or know someone at, but also donate blood at all of the blood drives in Chester. And the better attended these blood drives are, the more blood drives we can hold in Chester to make sure that we service the city in the appropriate way. A couple free things, giveaways. When we do hold a blood drive, we talked about sickle cell and the need. There's 100,000 people in the United States with sickle cell disease. 1 out of every 365 births are someone who is born with sickle cell disease. So they test it now, but they didn't used to test every single birth. So you may or may not know whether or not you have the trait. If you do, you can still donate. If you have sickle cell disease, you cannot donate. Right now, at least until the end of June, all blood drives, anyone who self-identifies as African American will get a free sickle cell trait screening through the American Red Cross. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is donate blood. If you don't know your blood type, you can also find out what your blood type is when you donate blood. Another thing, I talked about freebies. Amazon, the global mass, wonderful company that we all use, Amazon has partnered with the American Red Cross for our sickle cell initiative. So it was supposed to be a 5-year initiative, but due to COVID, obviously the world kind of went upside down, and we've extended it for 7 years. So we are trying to get more donors who are Black and African American to donate blood to help with the sickle cell disease. And with this initiative, Amazon has actually partnered with us to make sure that at all blood drives that are associated as a sickle cell education blood drive, every single donor, no matter what your race is, no matter what your background is, will get a $20 Amazon gift card. So that is a little incentive to help out and help get more donors on schedule. I believe I covered everything, but if I haven't, I will stay after for a little while if anyone has questions or if anyone wants to help and sign up for the blood drive on June 12th, right here at City Hall from 10 to 3. Thank you very much, and thank you for supporting the American Red Cross and also for supporting each other, because this meeting was actually really, really nice. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do for our community and for the Red Cross and other communities as well. Thank you. Ms. King, COVID update.
Good morning.
Morning.
According to the Pennsylvania Department of Health, there has been 13 positive COVID-19 cases reported in Chester since the last council meeting on March 22nd. Research experts believe that the number of positive cases is undercounted due to the common use of at-home tests and residents who may have mild symptoms and do not get tested. The CDC states that people in Delaware County may choose to mask at any time due to the low COVID-19 transmission. Please visit vaccines.gov to find out the most up-to-date appointment availability for the flu shot and COVID-19 vaccine and booster. We encourage everyone to consider getting the vaccine and booster shot if you haven't already. The health department is partnering with Woodland Pharmacy and the Black Equity Coalition to sponsor a free vaccine booster flu and shingle shot clinic on Wednesday, April 19th. City Hall also offers free blood pressure screenings every Wednesday from 11 to 1 in the lobby. Finally, COVID-19 home test kits, and Narcan can be picked up on the tables downstairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King.
Ms. King, what's the location of the booster shot on April 19th?
In the computer room,
Okay.
downstairs.
Thank you, Ms. King. I'd just like to say good morning to the Honorable Mayor Kirkland, as well as the fellow council members. I'm Rosetta Carter, Community Health Director for the City of Chester. But there have been a lot of good things I heard today, a lot that's going on in Chester. I am so happy, I am so pleased. But also I would like to mention to you, one of the reasons why we're able to do the COVID vaccine or continue with the COVID vaccines is because of Black Equity Coalition, which is a coalition out of Pittsburgh that serves underserved communities such as Chester. And because we have been doing a great job in the city of Chester, we were able to get a $10,000 grant from them to continue to do the COVID vaccines, as well as the boosters, as well as the shingles. But also, I'd just like to mention, everyone is familiar with our Juneteenth celebration that we do every year in Memorial Park. And because of our department, along with the city of Chester, have been doing such a great job with the vaccine, the Black Equity Coalition, they're in the midst of giving $10,000 to the Juneteenth celebration. I think you should give a hand for that. Okay, $10,000. Again, we're always looking for ways to bring monies into the city of Chester. So I just wanted to say that, Mayor. But I'm here to just let you know there are some changes coming along because of the COVID. The federal government allowed Pennsylvania and other states to continue with Medicaid. So what happened was that a lot of people was enrolled in Medicaid that may had not been eligible, but because of the pandemic, they were allowed to be a part of the program, as well as the Children Health Insurance Program, which is known as CHIP. But now the policy has ended as of March 31st, 2023, and starting April the 1st, which now you know we're in April now. Okay, everyone that's a part of the Medicare assistance program, you're going to have to renew your eligibility. If you don't renew it, it's a possibility you may lose your health care. So we are concerned about that at the city of Chester. So we are partnering with the high school, with Dr. Parkinson, who's the superintendent there, Mr. Leitner, Keystone First, and some community groups, just to make sure that when the people receive the information through the mail, because the renewal package is going to come through the mail. So you have to look out for this renewal package to make sure that you receive it, because again, in 90 days from the time that it's going to be, they send it out to you, what's going to happen, you may not have any insurance for you or you may not have any insurance for your kids. So what we're trying to do is to make sure that people, when I say we, the city of Chester, along with the school district, along with Keystone First, along with other agencies, we're trying to make sure that people know how to navigate the system so that when you get your renewal package, you will know that you can send it in by mail or online. So this information is important. So I would advise you to share with your friends, share with your church families, share with anybody you know, because there's a lot of people on medical assistance. But the good news is that we are here for you to make sure you know how to navigate the system. And also, if you're not eligible, there are ways that you can be eligible. So, again, this information is important. So, if you receive a package in the mail from the Department of Human Services about your renewal, please contact me here at the City of Chester. The school district will be sending information out so that all the parents and students will know that they have to renew. Because if you don't renew, you're not going to have the health care. And we live in a day that health care is very important. So it's a lot of information, but I just want the people know, along with mayor and council and the health department, we want to make sure that people understand how to navigate the system so that you will be renewed. So it's a lot of information, so feel free at any time to reach out and just contact me, and I will be more than happy to assist you. Thank you.
I got a question.
Sure.
Thanks. They allowed the Medicaid to continue even if you weren't eligible.
Right.
And the eligibility is ending. So my only question is, if you're in that bucket of not being eligible, will you get a renewal mailed to your house?
Yes,
Okay.
everyone that was a part of it because of the pandemic. You know, all the states were allowed to provide that type of service to anyone that was laid off or people were having problems or whatever. So everyone is going to get the renewal. And renewal dates are different for different individuals. Okay, so you may not get the renewal package the same day as your friend or someone else.
So
But
this
go ahead.
renewal, if you fill it out, it will extend your eligibility. Is that the
Well,
purpose?
again, because when the COVID was going on, some people did not complete the package. But the state of PA and other states allow people to still have that coverage. But now they're saying, okay, if you didn't complete it, okay, it has to be completed, okay? If you're eligible, you will continue with your benefits. If you're not eligible, they will look into other areas to see whether or not we can give you coverage from another area.
Okay, great.
Okay, and most individuals that were in or kids that have been a part of medical assistance for quite some time, more than likely they're going to be renewed. But again, we don't want them to miss that opportunity because, again, what's going to happen? They're going to call the city. They're going to say, I don't have no insurance. Okay, but it's out there. But when I first heard about this, I was on a call with the law center in Philadelphia along with Keystone First. And my first question, where you going to get the navigators? Are you going to hire the state? Are they going to hire more navigators? Because they're talking about millions of people. So it's a lot of people. But we are here to help those individuals to get through the system. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter, and thank you, Ms. King. I think the first four persons have already spoken. Ms. Holt, Mr. Fisher, Ms. Wood, and Mr. Hill. Okay. So Haley, I'm gonna leave it at Haley.
Good still morning, everyone. Almost afternoon, but not quite. We've almost made it. My name is Haley Drana, 314 East 24th Street. I remembered this time because I forgot last time, but I'm going to start by practicing some of what I'm going to preach. At the last council meeting, Councilman Morgan corrected me when I inquired about a vendor that I stated was outside of Chester. I just wanted to thank you for that correction. Because of the new information I received, I'm now more informed, better equipped to form an opinion, and it's just never a bad thing to say you learned something. So thank you for that correction. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
The rest of my comment regards the information that came from yesterday's MFRAC meeting. Thank you to the receiver and his team for all the work that you guys have been doing. It is not, I'm sure it's not an easy job, and it's got to be hard to enter a community like Chester that is so close-knit as an outsider and try to make a difference. So I just applaud you guys for the efforts that you guys are making. Mr. Kapoor used the perfect word for the meeting. He called it sobering. When I refer to we throughout this comment, I mean us, the residents, and therefore ultimately council as a representative body of us as residents. Chester is good for a by any means necessary mindset. The grind doesn't stop, the people work hard, but sometimes those means are not brute force or my way or the highway. Sometimes it's the complete opposite. It's putting your pride aside, collaborating, taking expert advice, and even working with people you don't see eye to eye on for the greater good of the community. We need to put the egos aside and work collaboratively with the receivers team. There's a serious us versus them culture that is impeding Chester's ability to progress. It shouldn't feel like council versus the receivers team. It should be everyone versus financial mismanagement for the success of our community. By fighting bankruptcy and denying accountability, the council is willing to sacrifice the city to keep their pride, and that is unfair, unjust, and we deserve better. For a city this size, a city of over 30,000 people, to face the possibility to lose its ability to make decisions for itself as a result of disincorporation, we all, including council members, as residents, become voiceless. The receivers team did not mince words. This is not an impasse. We cannot agree to disagree, see how it plays out in court. This is an ultimatum. Respectfully, the city needs to get its act together, collaborate, and do what's right for residents, or 30,000 people will be left without representation. Vote on May 16th because it may be your last chance to do so. Thank you.
Ms. Williams.
That came fast. Oh, my teacher's voice. That came very fast. This is my first time ever speaking at City Council. And I just usually listen, but I wanted to speak now because I just put down 4 words because as you get older, you sometimes forget what you're going to say. And I want to make sure I said it. And the 4 words were all, good, no, and schooling. The all was all roads lead to Chester. With Chester being the only city, everywhere you go, I don't care how far down a highway you are, there's a road that's going to lead you back to Chester. Chester is the only city in Delaware County and should always remain a full city in this county. We should not allow anyone to do anything, to take it apart, pull it apart, anything. because all roads lead to Chester. My other word was good. Recognize what's good in Chester. I get so upset when Chester does so many good things, but never really gets recognized. Organizations can come here, do little things that have already been done by its residents, and get all the glory. It's a story I'm tired of hearing. We have youth that do wonderful things, organizations that do wonderful things, and just plain old people. Give us a chance to be recognized instead of the folks who walk in and do little things. My other word was schooling. As a former 40+ year teacher, believe it or not, we are concerned about homes, but we need to be concerned about schools also. I realized early on that most of my life was spent inside the school building rather than in my home. And so did the children spend most of their time. Yes, we're concerned about lead poisoning, and I think it's important that we address it. But we should also be fighting to make sure that Chester gets more funding so that their schools can be better. And I'm talking about state funding. There are teachers sitting here who spent their own money buying books, paper, crayons, things that people in other areas never had to do. I never knew that I had money until I retired because all of it went into the schools. This should not be. Those folks who push for us to get lead testing, and I appreciate you, and all other things, help push to make sure that Chester gets more funding for schools. I have gone through many cities, and I can tell the inner cities where our minorities live because they get what's left over in schooling. This should never be. So I want all those folks who really care about us to help push to get us better funding for school. Then we don't have to worry about some of the other problems. My two no's. My first no was no takeaways. And when I say no takeaways, how many of you remember having 3 Y's in Chester? YWCA's, YMC. Instead of helping Chester get what it needs, that money is pulled out and is placed elsewhere. And our kids are not going to be able to get there to get use out of it. So why pull them out? But to go with my other no, people are quick to bring things into Chester that just doesn't benefit us. Things that are hazardous to our health. I don't want new buildings, and I'm going to say it just like I feel. I don't want Delcor to build a new stink building down there where some folks live. Expand. Don't bring stuff from other areas to Chester. If you want to bring something to Chester, bring money, bring funding. Recognize what we do. Help us build up our schools. Keep Chester viable. I don't know what disenfranchisement means for Chester, and I just heard that word, but I don't want Chester disenfranchised. I want all roads to still lead to Chester.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Ms. Smith?
Still morning. Nope. Yep. Mayor, can I ask a question to one of the council people about a statement that was made? Let me take my mask off. Okay. When we were talking about the easement for the Stormwater Authority, it was mentioned by Councilman Roos that it was a lake. There's nowhere in the documentation for the Stormwater Authority that indicates that it's going to be a lake. And then also was stated about Delcor. So my question is, will Delcor's pipes control all the flooding in Memorial Park?
Okay, so you didn't say lake. Let's say a huge body of water.
Okay, and that could be an ocean,
Could be.
a river.
So we're going to use a lot of water to take care of flooding
Mhm.
when you don't have to. That's my entire point.
Okay, but you said lake, but you made sure you said lake multiple times because people who have a geography mindset, they know what lakes look like, they know what oceans look like, they know what rivers look like, they know what ponds look
But
like.
they don't know what basins look like. So if I say
Well,
it's
if
a
you say
lake,
it's a
that's
bathtub, they would
something
know
that
what
would be a lot more familiar to people than a basin. I gave you an example of what a dry basin will look like. You go down to the Access Center on 7th and Booth and just stand right next to the Access Center. You will see something that would adequately control the flow, clean the water, and enter into the pipe that Delcora has assured me is designed to handle all the flooding that currently exists in Memorial Park, all the way down Townsend Street, particularly the Marketplace. Thank you so much. That floods. So that's just my point. A couple
Okay.
other comments that came up regarding engineering, and I'm an engineer. I haven't seen the updated plans that the mayor had alluded to when they first brought this to us. The first question the them is the engineers. The first question I asked is how far from home plate to the split rail fence will that be? They came back the following day and said 250 feet. 250 feet will not accommodate a softball field. For any tournament, you need at least 300 feet. So if they've made changes to make that distance from home plate to the split rail fence that we're saying is the security that's going to keep kids from going into the pond, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so just for the record, if you want further information, contact the Stormwater Authority.
Well, believe it or not, the same engineers that are working on it on the Stormwater Authority are engineers who do work for Delcora. So they could be talking to themselves, in all honesty.
Okay.
They know the answers. The only reason we're doing a lake is because Penvest can give us millions of dollars to do these projects. And that's great. It is a park improvement. The question I'm asking the citizens is this the park improvement you want? If so, I'm down with it. If not, there are alternatives. We're not looking at alternatives. I don't think a lake-sized body of water to resolve flooding is the best answer for the city of
Okay.
Chester. That's
But
my
even
only
though when the motion went through, you seconded or made the motion.
I made the
But
motion.
yes, but yet you voted no when it came about.
Correct.
That's so be it.
We do this
And
all the
it's
time.
not, and it's not a lake for the record. It is not a
It's a
lake.
big body of water.
It's not
People will
a
relate to
lake.
it as a lake
It's not
as
a lake.
opposed to a basin.
It's not a lake. Now, my other question that the lady was just mentioning about the report that went out and the alternatives about disbanding the corporation of the city of Chester. People just beware. If that ever happens, which I don't think that courts will allow that Chester could be divided into many different parcels. Other communities would be able to take the citizens from Marcus Hook, Trainer, Parkside, and all around us if that happens as far as the city. And the thing is, it is sad to say you treat your mother, because the city of Chester is the mother of cities, being the oldest one in the state of Pennsylvania. And if people are coming to want to help the mother, that is a poor showing of how you help your mother. Thank you.
Ms. Evans.
Good Good morning, Mayor Council.
Good morning.
So the last two council meetings, we were provided the expenditure list. I was wondering why we weren't provided that list this time.
Yeah, the vacations, just personnel, the individuals who provide that information was not available over the last week or two.
Can it be added late?
So we will, so this is a norm. Yeah, the next council meeting will approve or look to approve and consider the expenditure list from a particular date to whatever date. And it's always a date range for the expenditure list.
Okay, is there any, progress on the truck stop that is being created on 7th and Flower? I spoke on it at 2 different council meetings, and I was told at the last council meeting by the mayor that there are not trucks parking down there every day. And if I had time to go down there and take pictures and have them printed out, I would have brought some today.
Yes, sir.
I do have some good news that I do want to put out. Fairbanks Scales from Aston, PA, along with the state, met me last week, and our scale house is up and running. Mr. Leitner and I are working out some details. I met with him on Monday. I gave him 6 options of what we could do, some with the city of Chester and some possibly with the Pennsylvania State Police, which we're collaborating now. Anything in reference to trucking, we will have a plan in place probably within the next month or 2, and you will see that addressed.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yep. My next question is about the bankruptcy. At the last council meeting, I had spoken, and the solicitor has stated that the funds we were paying out were not to fight the bankruptcy. Come to find out, we are fighting the bankruptcy. Why are we using unnecessary money to fight something that we need here in the city?
Can I address that?
Okay.
There has not been $1 spent by the city of Chester to fight the bank.
Okay, and where do I get that information?
I guess you could file a right to know request.
Okay. And when it comes to resolution number 7, it stated that it was a lease agreement. So is it a lease agreement or an ownership? And can you clarify that agreement? Because it went from a parking lot to a property, and it was a little confusing, and I need a little bit more clarification, and so does the public. And how much is the lease agreement, if you can provide that information as well?
It is a lease agreement.
Okay.
A lease agreement does create a leasehold interest in real property, and I could go over the agenda at length, the agreement with you after the meeting.
Okay. Can you provide the amount of money that we're going to be receiving from that lease? Because right now we're in dire straits.
I believe.
No.
We'll go over.
Okay.
We'll go over everything.
And lastly, resolution number 8. When it comes to okay, I'll let you guys talk. Lastly, resolution number 8, when it comes to the lake, basin, pond, whatever's going over in Memorial Park. I was at one of those meetings, and to my recollection, there has only been one meeting. I live directly down the street from there. I've never seen the massive flood that everyone is referring to. In that meeting, there was a lot of things that were not clarified. Stormwater Authority stated that the liability will fall back on Chester. We can't afford to take any more liability. Also, when it comes to the fencing, they were talking about putting a wood fence up, not enough or adequate enough for a child not to climb under, climb through, break over, and get in there and possibly drown. So can y'all explain to us, since it's so adamant that we fix this problem, how is all this really going to benefit the residents? Because me personally, do we need enough lighting over there? We do. Do we need added things that's going to harm our residents and our children? No, we don't. So can y'all explain that?
There has been on numerous occasions, and I've witnessed it myself, flooding in that area. And the flooding has been extremely bad in that area on a number of times, or every time it rains real hard. The goal is to alleviate the flooding in that area and also the flooding that is happening in the homes and businesses in that area. I went to Philadelphia to look at one of these catch basins. And I saw how it was designed, myself and other council persons, saw how it was designed and how it helped that community. Quite frankly, the design is a very beautiful design.
Oh, I saw it. I was at the meeting. The engineer, he put the diaphragm up and all those good things. But I want you to speak to the liability and the fencing. because that's huge. If they're saying that they're going to be the ones installing it and it's not money coming from us, it's a grant, I get all of that. But at the same time, they're putting the liability back on the city of Chester. So can you speak to that portion of it?
Sure, I can. We are still in conversation with them about the liability aspect of it. We have made that clear that if this is something that's going to be built by them, that they have to be liable. We have been in these conversations.
Okay.
Even with the fencing, we talked about the type of fencing that would prohibit young persons or older persons from climbing over the fence. Quite frankly, if a person wanted to go swimming, they can climb over the fence in the pool area.
That's true.
But they choose not to.
That's true.
They choose not to because the pool is open all day long. We have a pool down there, and we haven't had any issues. So I hope that answers your question.
And they did reference it as more of a lake because they said they were going to put a platform and there may be ducks or something in there. So I don't think a basin's going to hold ducks. I just want to
Thank you. Just to share with you, ducks fly and swim wherever they want. Mr. Salim. Good morning.
Good morning. Quite a bit of time it is in the afternoon. I'm reminded of that. So inshallah, God's willing. My name is Amin Abdul Salim. I'm in remembrance of a person. They shared so much. Over talking so much that we lost a lot of valuable times, and I certainly do not want to do that at all. Trying to put in the best words that I can and quick. I was making notes. I got quite a bit of note here. There are those who are seeking to climb over the wall into leadership and not come through the proper gates. So that's a reality. So I wanted to get that out. So there's a decision there to make. You want to know where this person, what is his, what he's doing. I also heard you say, Mayor, if I may, you said something like promise made, promise kept. And I wanted to tie that with God's promise. We are people who keep our Lord's promise, no matter what. God put that in us. So over the years, if we swerve away from God's promise, there always was someone or some group to bring us back. So we're here now. We are here now. We are here now. I don't want to hold you long. I decide not to. But there's quite a bit that God said he's going to open some mouth and close some mouth. So a lot of this that we're hearing is going to come into better form or just go out, inshallah, God's willing. They are overzealous. That was a problem among, and that's what I was trying to say at first, among the first group that brought this. And they stood it up. But it wasn't going to last. But when it arrives this time, it's going to stay. It's going to stay. So that's where we're trying to get to, coming to leadership through the proper gates. Not. I'd like to stop at this point, and inshallah, this will curb some of the talk that we have heard today at this long, extended time. And maybe next time we'll, shorter, inshallah. God willing, sir. I think.
Thank you, Mr. Salim. Ms. Richwell? There at Sylvia. I'll get you next.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Sylvia Richville. I have a couple issues. Okay, first, the parking at the stadium where they're doing the lots. Right now, they've already took over all the public places that we have that we had because we no longer have at the waterfront. When they hold events down there, there's nowhere for us to go. So how is that going to work with them taking over more spaces?
So, question: Are you a resident down
I'm
there?
a resident.
And are you
So I
saying
don't live on 291 anymore. I grew up there. I live over on the east side.
Are you having an issue with when it's events going on?
Yes.
So it was brought to my attention of something like this last week. We did speak to the police and public works department, and we're trying to address it with the union. I'm not sure who owns those parking lots that people are paying to park to go to particular events, but we are going to address it because they should most certainly, those residents should have access to those streets.
Right, because sometimes we don't want to participate in what they have going on, but we would like to take our families to the waterfront, and we can't.
Yeah. So we're trying to we are looking to address that.
Okay, so when they do put the parking spaces there, are they going to be charging the residents of Chester when there are no events going on to park in those spaces? Okay, so they're taking the spaces to make parking lots. Right now they're just fields. Sometimes people pull their cars onto the fields now as they are. Once they take over these parking spaces, on days where there are no events, will we be allowed to still park in those spaces?
I would say no to
So
that.
we're losing, okay.
No. I would say no to that.
Okay.
Simply because it becomes a liability to them.
Okay.
If something were to happen to you, your children, or anybody else on their parking lot, they're liable.
So what are we benefiting from giving the stadium this property? If they're taking over these spaces, I know that they're just sitting there right now. We don't really use them, sort of some people might feel. But if we're giving up this to the stadium for use, what are we benefiting in return?
Go ahead.
Well, Mayor, we're not. They already currently have the lease has been in agreement.
So they already own the property.
No. They're leasing the property from us. They in the past they leased the property from us. The actual agreement was going to be voided in November of 2023. The reason we put the resolution here is to have a agreement between the city and a union for them to build on the property prior to November of 2023. So that's what the resolution is for. They want to start their construction in May rather than December, and that's pretty much what it's for.
Okay, I'm not really asking about the resolution. I just wanted to know what was going to take place for the residents who are currently using those spaces. That's really all.
And additionally, and you please give me more information, but the lots that any construction that they've done is construction to bring down trees and debris where no one can park at anyway.
Okay.
So please, in abandoned buildings. So if there's a lot that you're particularly talking about where people parked at and now they can park, please let me know.
So maybe I'm unaware of the exact location that you guys were referencing because you say it in numbers instead of streets and.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm unaware of exactly where you're speaking. The places I'm speaking of now are where they have the trucking, where the gravel is. Before that trucking place came there, we always used that area. Before they redid the middle, we parked there for generations. We had high school, we had everything there. It's like we're not allowed when they have events. We're not allowed to be there as a regular public while they're holding events. We don't want to go to their events all the time. Sometimes we buy tickets and we take our families. But when we just want to use that space, we're not allowed when they're there. If a week come and they're there 7 days a week, that's 7 days our city don't have use of that space. Around their hours is when we would have to go. Because they have flagging people out there, you can't even enter the space.
But let me just correct you. Number one, they're never there 7 days a week. Number two.
Now they're not. With new partnerships, they partner with Kevin Durant. Once they start doing new things there, they're going to be holding events there more days than they are now. Now it's only a little bit of stuff going on. But by the time they put 20 years from now, when they start partnering with all these other people, that's going to push us out. Totally.
Go, man, go. It's hard to answer a question when you're not allowed to answer a question.
No, but I want to answer something.
Okay.
Well, not answer, but I want to. All of this is to provide more access
Better space.
Better.
I get it.
No, but we have a beautiful asset here in the Water Authority, in the Chester waterfront. But not a lot of people use it into COVID-19, and next thing you know, everybody wants to have.
No, I can't say that. I can't say that.
Okay.
I know that was bad.
Excuse me. Excuse me. We can't talk over each other.
That's why I can move to the next thing.
But one more.
We can talk after
All
this.
I'm trying to say is there will be additional conversations with the city and Philadelphia Union because the goal is to bring more of our residents to the waterfront.
Okay.
We don't want to
We
restrict.
just don't
or
want to be
confine-
charged to have to go there. That's all I'm basically
Understood.
saying. We don't want to have to pay
And we can have
to
more
go to somewhere
conversation.
that should be
I'm with
free.
you. I agree.
Okay.
And just so you know, one of the areas down there that you're talking about, the Norris Street area,
Mhm.
that's owned by someone else, large portion of that.
Okay. I don't really speak to the parking lot. There's a footpath on the back of Pico's gate.
Mhm.
Does that belong to the city or does that belong to somebody else? Because you can take the footpath and then we have the benches at the gate. That's all I'm speaking to.
Okay, I thought you were talking about
No, you
larger
can't
scale.
even get in there when they have an event. Yeah, I'm not speaking about parking on the gravel or where the trucking. I mean, right at the fence. If I want to go fishing, I can't.
Well, hopefully, the good thing about that is they're not all year long.
Okay.
Soccer.
So basically, it's just still up for discussion and it's nothing finalized yet.
Yes.
Okay.
But I want to talk to you after the meeting.
I got you. So with the Memorial Park plan, next, when they running these pipes through there, what is the options? Is it somewhere for the kids to be relocated? Because when they're doing the work is going to be in a certain area, but I'm pretty sure they're going to fence off a larger area due to liability. How does that affect the community once work starts?
Well, I tell folks this all the time. Progress is never pretty.
I get it, but right now, you know, we don't got nothing for these kids to do. If you push them kids out of that field, that means a lot more violence for our streets.
I'm trying to answer. I really am trying to answer, but I'm being cut off. Progress has never been a pretty situation. You have to tear something up or tear something down in order to build it back up or make it look better.
Okay.
And sometimes it inconveniences persons. There were persons who were upset about the progress on 9th Street. We finally getting the street fixed.
I don't want to cut you off, but they more upset about the hours that the work is being done. Don't do that to them.
But you did
Because I saw the trucks at 4 a.m.
But you did just cut me off. Watch this. Watch this. 4 a.m. Even if they're trying their best to get out the way. And that's what we want them to do, get it done and get out the way. And so if it means I have to do it and work 24/7 or 24 hours a day, 24 hours to be out of your way so that you can have your streets back and they're safer and they're and pothole free, then I encourage them to do what they need to do so they can get out the way.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Okay. Bill number 4. I know that this is just a revision, but when it comes to the appeals process for the ordinance, who does that apply to? The reason I ask is because I see a lot of residents being pushed out of their homes illegally. And it's happening every day. So who does the appeal process apply to in ordinance number 4?
The appeals process applies to anyone that's cited under that ordinance.
Okay, so I was cited under that ordinance. I put in my 5-day, the notice. You have to put in a notice within 5 days of receiving paperwork. Is that correct? I was told, no, let's back up. Well, no, let's stay on this. I was told that the appeal process was not for the tenant, but only for the landlord. The L&I does not deal with tenants. They only deal with landlords.
Well, the landlord would have been cited. I'm not.
Okay, so then I move
under
on.
any circumstance why a tenant would be cited under that ordinance.
No,
unless
no,
they
no,
own,
no.
unless they are responsible or own the property.
Excuse me, Mr. Solicitor. In the appeal, I don't have it here in front of me, but it says that if anybody is issued an eviction notice in accordance with the ordinance, then they can appeal with L&I within 5 days. And that's what I want to know what that part appeals to.
I'm not aware of that provision, to be honest.
Well, it says that you have 5 days to appeal if you're served, and you appeal so that a hearing can be had between L&I and the landlord. If that never happens, well, who's following up with these things? I know that y'all you said you're coming. You're coming too late for a lot of people. I'm in court right now in media. I'm 36,000 under. I put in a nuisance complaint. I went back and followed up with the nuisance complaint. I was told when I went back that they have new heads in place and that somebody will contact me. Sir, nobody contacted me. I went up the street to John Kane's office and I had the lady there send Mr. Leitner my 5-day request because I couldn't get it in the door here. They kept acting some type of way. So I went, it was fax from John Kane's office. I have not received any feedback yet. We're talking May. The place where I was has no certificate of occupancy. I went downstairs, I got it from Miss Candace. The proof that there's no certificate of occupancy since I was living at the residence. It's all the way to the point now, on January 14th, I was illegally locked out of the place. I left in the morning, I came back, the locks were changed. When I called that is trespassing. When I called the police, they told me it was nothing they can do because it was a civil matter.
What you're referring to is a private cause of action that you have against the landlord.
Yeah, because I had to follow appeal and do my own thing and my own research to help myself when there's supposed to be things in place to help the residents in the city of Chester. We are bankrupt, and all these landlords out here should be fined $50 to $500 per day for not having a certificate of occupancy. We living in these houses with incorrect plumbing, sewage backups, mold, ceilings falling through, but we still got to pay the rent. When I contacted legal aid, they told me, ma'am, continue to pay your rent no matter what's going on, because the courts don't like to see people who don't pay rent. They think you want to run on rent, right? So I paid the rent all the way through to media, through the appeal, to stop her, and the court date's coming. But it's sad that I don't have my city behind me to support me. It shouldn't have to be this far, because when I put in that 5-day notice, she should have had a hearing, and they should have stopped it right there. I had Judge Davis, I had the proof from Miss Candace downstairs that there is no certificate of occupancy. Do you know that judge, she sued me I've been there for 3 years. Judge Davis gave her what she asked for, $1,200 for 3 years. But he gave her $774. In the beginning of the ordinance number 4, it states that it's from federal. And it's which the code and ordinance that y'all pick from the federal acts. I could be talking about the Landlord-Tenant Act. Okay, so it's got me upset.
May I ask, and I know it's important to you and it's important to me, but what I will say
But
is
it's
that
important to a lot of people.
it is. I agree.
It's so many people beside me when I'm in these lines. The same things is happening to them.
You want to be here after the meeting?
Sure.
Gary and Chief, can we sit down after the meeting and see how we can?
All right, because I've been to Mr. Wilson also. They said I was harassing them.
Who?
They said that I was harassing them at LNI.
Okay. I got you.
I've been there a lot.
Thank you. They'll get with you right afterwards, okay?
I'll give you a copy of this after too.
Okay, I saw y'all get them kids a $5,000 check, and that's lovely. But are they going to be able to cash it?
Thank you.
I'm serious, because they saying that I got the stuff from the meeting yesterday. I don't even want to pull all that up. But they got us to run out of money. I don't even want to talk about the city not being the city, because I don't want to even. I just want to about the money running out part.
The check will be fine. Check will be fine. Mr. Stockton?
All righty. Good afternoon. My name is Geo Stockman. I stay at 209 East 13th Street. I'm the lead interventionist for the GVON program. That's the Gun Violence Intervention Network and Empowerment Program. I'm also the lead messenger for CPSN. That's the Community Network Safe Partnership for Safe Neighborhoods. I'm the president of Security Bag. I'm an activist. I'm a community member. I got 2 things, and I'm gonna be real brief. Number 1, these meetings is taking too long, man. Y'all talking about too much stuff that don't nobody know what y'all talking about, and we not getting to no issues. I would try to shorten this up, get some of these ordinances read somewhere else. The second thing, the reason why I brought that first thing up is because I was here, and what I wanted to address, the person I wanted to address, and the issue I wanted to address has spoken and left 2 hours ago. and that would be Steve Fisher with the Housing Authority. We're having an issue with communicating with him, having an honest, open dialogue with him, and getting results from him. And we need help from y'all as our representatives in the city. Our issue is this. In the William Penn housing projects, they made the excuse of taking our courts down for the COVID. Safety of COVID. We don't want COVID being transmitted to people playing on the courts. All COVID protocols have since been lifted that I see. I don't see nobody wearing no mask. I don't see nobody doing nothing that got to do with COVID. And our issue is, since last year, we've been trying to get these courts back up. They blocked us on every occasion. It's not a money issue. We've even offered to pay for them. They said the court was messed up. We offered to pay for paving of the court. So what they're doing is they're just giving us issue after issue and excuse after excuse to why not to help our kids. Now, in our program from the William Penn Project, we have approximately 22 kids that's in our program. They live there. They play on that court. It doesn't have a court. Like, how do you have a basketball court without a court? I have pictures. I'm going to release them later on. Probably going to send them to the news, too. It's 2023. That's this year. Our kids is in the William Penn Project playing basketball on a creek in 2023. We need help. I need help. I can't get these people to move. It's only so much I can do. I donate my money. I donate my time. I don't have the proper muscle to get these people to move. We need y'all help to get these people to move. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Stockton. As you well know, we spoke to Mr. Fisher last year about the same issue. Went to bat and spoke to Mr. Fisher about the same issue concerning, well, never mind, I'll let her talk when you finish. We'll work with you, okay? Yeah. Ms. Mayfield.
Good afternoon, I guess. Good afternoon, Zoe Mayfield. I have a couple of issues, but one of my main issues that I want to talk about right now, well, there's several. Earlier, this room was filled with members from CEET and the Delaware County Lead Prevention Program, and all of these entities that want to come to Chester and do good work, but have a real problem incorporating the residents in these systems. I hope that your intention is that you're coming here because you really want to do good work and not because you have millions of dollars in funding, because this is an environmental justice community. So we're telling you also, do not prostitute our community for your benefit. And that's particularly for funding that you get from the NHIS, which I know is a couple of millions of dollars now. So I want to put that out there first. Second, I was at the meeting concerning the lake, and they did refer to it as a lake. Whatever it is, I was born at number 13 Ingle Street, and I had lived in that area on the west side of Chester primarily all of my life. That funeral home has been there minimum 50 years actively working. The auto body place, Teledyne Works was there. People on Townsend Street have been in those homes 40, 45, 50 years. I think Mr. Tyler and them been there longer than that. Right on Townsend, 4th and Townsend, 4th and Ingle. I recall one time that there was major flooding there. These people were not flooded out of their homes. They got some water in the basement, and that was because we got remnants of a hurricane that came up here. That library has never flooded. Never. You have flooding in that area because they filled in the stream. It was a stream that ran from the other side of 7th Street behind the bank all the way across Memorial Street, and they filled it in. That's why water is pulling on that river, on the track side of that park. I think that the Stormwater Authority has found the ability to raise a lot of money, either through grants here lately, but primarily they are borrowing from Pinvest. And because they are borrowing, the residents will ultimately have to pay those bills back. So on top of a stormwater fee that they're already paying, those bills will become due. And everything that I see from this council is, you know, I believe what the young lady was talking about in reference to the stadium, there's a public parking area down there. And there's a sign that's up there that says during a stadium event, the public, that means the residents of Chester are not allowed to use a public lot. Where they do that at? Where does that happen at? If we are residents, if residents pay for that lot, how come they can't use it because they having a soccer game? Make it make sense to me. And who gets the money from that? They ought to be paying the city of Chester something, as well as when they use this public parking lot out here. I would like to see those agreements. How much money is coming back into the coffers because they are allowed to use our lots? Like Candlewood uses one side, and Philadelphia Union uses the other side of this lot right here. So who is signing these agreements? Because, you know, we don't have the best negotiators over here. And if it can't add to the income of the city, then y'all ought not be doing it. Because ultimately the residents have to pay for it. You know, and it's wrong. And the first thing that, you know, members of council say is the outsiders. Every time I come to council, there are outsiders that are extracting from this community and not inputting. And that's okay. That's fine. Because you sanction a lot of that foolishness. So, you know, listen, we know the situation, and I was also on the MFRAC meeting yesterday, and the word was disincorporation of this community. I spent a couple hours yesterday reading Act 47 and Section 439 to find out exactly what it means. And I was almost surprised because, you know, Mayor Kirkland, at the time you were a rep and you voted for that bill, for this incorporation, that Act 47. So you should be very aware of what exactly it means for this community. And all I'm saying is, you know, sometimes you can work with somebody and not like them, and that's fine. You have to cooperate and collaborate. Everybody run around talk about C-Pride. We have a alumni day, C-Pride day, homecoming day bigger than most colleges. Beautiful thing. It really is a beautiful thing. And I'm saying that same sense of community ought to be going on right now. Right now. I know that, you know, people are in positions and they want to hold them. But sometimes you got to put your pride aside. Brother Gio was gone, but I heard him say one time, if I'm drowning, I don't care who's throwing me the life raft. Just throw it. The life raft is being thrown. Stop rejecting it. And save our city for real. Exercise some real sea pride and put your pride aside for the good of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fontaine.
Thank you, Mayor Kirkland. Thank you, Council. So one thing that I wanted to start off of before I piggyback off of the disincorporation aspect, I did see that the health department was here today, and I did want to take up some space to have a conversation on vaccines because I do see the work that the health department is doing regarding that. However, I would like to indicate the research of Dr. Paul Merrick and Dr. Pierre Corey and the rise of antivirals such as ivermectin and convalescent plasma. And with the rise of vaccine adverse events, right, it's essential that these alternatives also be shared with the people of Chester. As discussed in the executive, in the emergency use authorization, section 360 BBB. So if you haven't heard of that, I will refer y'all to that. I'll be reaching out to Ms. Carter's office and Department of Health to kind of have those discussions. So we can also begin a info campaign because there are some people that cannot, do not, and will not be vaccinated, whether it's because of their religion, whether they are Muslim, whether they are of a certain cultural background. But we do need to make this a win-win for everyone on a medical side. So I did want to highlight that. Second thing, let's go back to the disincorporation real quick. 340 years ago, that's how long it's been since the Okihakan Indians and the Lenapehakan Indians offered a land indenture to William Penn that we're really not sure has ever been paid for, according to Henry Ashmead. If you ever read the history of Delaware County, I suggest that you do that. But my specific question is, knowing that about how the Indians govern and going back to how we govern right now, what tangible hard copy alternative plans other than the sale of Chester Water Authority can the council provide today to prevent the bankruptcy or disincorporation that's pending? And what supplemental plan is being made for the administration for day-to-day operations as discussed in Mr. Kapoor and Mr. Dowry's report yesterday to address each department at City Hall? So that's kind of my major question that I have for council and everything today. I appreciate everyone in listening to my lead-in, and I allow space for the mayor and council to answer.
Thank you. Thank you for your inquiry.
Could you also update that as Dr. Fontaine, Mayor Kirkland? I appreciate it.
As I was going to say, first of all, it's a real bad situation when folks continuously provide false, misleading information. I've said this on a number of occasions, Doctor. I worked with Mr. Frank Catania for almost 3 years in trying to work out a plan with the Chester Water Authority, whereby the city over the next 20, maybe plus years, will receive a certain amount of money from the Water Authority, and the Water Authority stays intact. Everybody keeps saying the selling of the Water Authority. That was never the first thing on the books. And if you'd like to see that documentation, I'd be more than glad to share it with you, Doctor. Because I think people need to understand the facts and stop putting that real bad misinformation out there. I think they really need to see it. And I would be more than glad to share that with you right after this meeting so that you would see what kind of dollars that we have been working on before the lawsuits and all those other things came into play. The fact of the matter, when they started talking about selling the Water Authority, that was a secondary thing. These were options that we had on the table. And even the receiver kept saying, selling of the water authority has to be in the plan. He says it to the day. Nobody questions him. Nobody says anything when he says selling of the water authority has to be in the plan. He said it every single time. And you said something about somebody said something about bankruptcy. Listen, there have been persons who have been in some form of bankruptcy. I didn't like the way it went about. And we have the documentation that it went about wrong. We sat in this building, retirees, staff persons, a lady 84 years old. 84 years old. She said, my husband was a former police officer and he died. And if you talk about taking my pension, she said, how am I going to eat? 84 years old. That could have been anybody's mother. And as she sat in this building, and as they gave their presentation, they said the same thing again. They being Mr. Kapoor, who was really the receiver, and Mr. Dowry. I didn't do it to you. I don't do it to you. And so they sat in this room and they said to these retirees, bankruptcy is not on the table now. We're not even considering that right now. We just want you to tell you what the options will be or what they are. And then less than 24 hours, less than 24 hours, they were on the TV calling for bankruptcy. They just talked to these folks. We were in the same room. That's my objection. How you treat people and how you mislead people. That was not being honest. And so I can't accept that. I can't accept persons not being honest, especially with the addresses. But that's another story. 801 Barclay Street. 801 Barclay Street, federal judge, Judge Brady, that's what you told him November 17, 2022. Told a federal judge, you live on 801 Barclay Street. You lied to a federal judge. You lied to a federal judge. Councilman. Go back to Delaware. Go back to Delaware. Councilman. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. Have a nice day. I hope so. Bye. Oh, see that? She's not in Chester. Did you just say you're not in Chester? Bye. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. You won't speak again. Bye-bye. 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 Have a great day. Councilman Roots.
Good afternoon. We're going to do lightning round here. I've been adding stuff as we go. Ms. Williams made a very important statement today. Recognize what's good in Chester. Last night I was just lounging, watching the mayor debate in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And that guy, Jeff Brown, said some stuff that I didn't like. One of the things, man, we're going to put some respect on our name around here, okay? We didn't like his comments. So that's number one. Red Cross. For the young lady from the Red Cross, thank you so much for coming today. If you can do anything, come back to Chester. You're talking about all the stuff that Chester identifies closely with the Red Cross. We used to have them up on Edgemont Avenue, was it?
Yep.
And then I think they consolidated into Philadelphia, and they certainly provide services here, but we would sure like to have them back. The fact that you focused on sickle cell is super important. It's definitely on my bucket list, being involved with the Department of, or our Bureau of Health. The only sickle cell center that's close is up at Children's Hospital. And one of the biggest issues with sickle cell is aging out. It's usually identified when you're a kid. When you get out of your parents' insurance as adults, it's really tough to get that type of sickle cell um, health health help because it's not covered by many insurances or people just don't have insurance. So that should be important to our community. To Gio, who left, I'm sorry he left. He says that the meetings are too long. To Gio, I'd say city council was all about city business. We're going to take as long as it takes to get through city business. You guys, as the public, are invited to witness us do city business. Now, I understand this is one of the few occasions that you do have an opportunity to address mayor and council. And we should probably do a better job of having more opportunities for you to address mayor and council because 3 minutes public comment, it just goes off the rail too many times. I want to recognize Gary, who everybody I recognize is moving out of here. But Gary Collins from L&I, he does this great thing where he has the L&I department, the different inspectors from the area, every couple months have people come and meet their inspector, and I think that's coming up real soon. Is it tomorrow? Oh, thank you so much. So that's Judy Richards is here, the deputy director inspector of the deputy director of inspections. There you go. So just want to welcome you here today. Keeping going, Zulene, I wanted to address Zulene, and she just left. She was saying there's very little flooding down on that Townsend Street. The real target for flooding down there is the marketplace. It just shouldn't have been built. So, you know, rainwater follows gravity. So the highest point in Delaware County is Cheney University. The lowest point is the Delaware River. For the most part, everything flows to the river. And somehow whoever built the marketplace built it kind of below where the gravity runs. So that's the real flood point. If they were to do it any differently, they'd knock that out the way, either build it up so it can continue down the slope or just put your retaining pond, and that's really where it belongs, right there at the marketplace. Stadium parking, I experienced some stadium parking issues. A couple weeks ago, they had the CRC cleanup where they clean up streams and stuff. It was 9 o'clock. I was going to meet Baron Lacey down there, and I was blocked. I mean, they would not let me park on Flower Street. So I never take no for an answer. I jumped the curb. Amusingly, the guard who was on the other side of the street came marching to my car, gave me an earful. But what was unbelievable to me is that there was a game at 7:30 that particular day, and they're blocking the parking lot off at 9 in the morning. So mayor, council, we have to get down there and at least straighten that out. They don't need to be blocking off parking lots at 9 in the morning for a 7:30 game. So some of that has to be corrected. The lots that they're building on 291 is to accommodate the sports complex, which will have people coming down to Chester every day. So we're going to see a lot more people, a lot more traffic on that side of town. It's still amazing to me that you would build even a stadium without a parking complex. Harris did it right? They have the stackable 4 or 5 story, 8-story parking lot. I mean, that should have been required down at the stadium. So they're still making amends for that. And that is last. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Council.
Question, Council. What lot was blocked, or that you said on Flower?
So if you're going down Flower, the one to the left, the old Wade site.
Oh, so Berry Bridge Park. Berry Bridge Park. I
Yeah.
got you.
Oh, and speaking of Berry Bridge Park, I was down there yesterday. If you guys know what a pergola is, the pergola is installed. It's I don't know what to call it. It's a canopy that doesn't have a flat roof on it, but you should go down there and see it. But just recently, Dwayne here, when did the benches get put? Because they got resurfaced and they've been put out. They really look nice. Most of them face the water. So if you just want to chill, if you can get down there, if you can chill, sit on the benches, look at the water. The light poles have been painted black, and the ballards, those things that keep you from driving into it, are painted black. There's some white structures that just look like cement rectangles. I learned they were supposed to be benches. We have an artist that is giving us a rendition to make that look real artsy before the graffiti artists get down there, and hopefully before the skateboarders come down there and ruin it. So, Dwayne, be looking out for that. All right, that is it. Councilman?
Yeah, I'll probably be rambling on a little bit as well. But definitely want to try to address those issues with the event parking down at the waterfront. So I know we'll most certainly jump on that. And like Councilman said, that new pergola down there with the benches and the light fixtures. If you haven't driven down Flower Street, Rainy Street, it's not English Street, it's another street down there where we've done new road pavement, new sidewalks, painted the light fixtures. The entryway to the waterfront is most certainly more beautified, and there's more work to come. So I know the pergola is up, is not fully completed yet. We're adding some like string lights to it and everything, so it'll be more lit up on the waterfront and more inviting for individuals to walk in or drive down there to enjoy the City of Chester's waterfront. Continue to look at our Chester City website for job opportunities here in public works and finance and public affairs. I know we just hired some firefighters. I think we have a few individuals in the police training, I believe at Police Academy. So just continue to look at our website, at our social media websites to look for those opportunities. And if you're not the candidate, then maybe you have a friend, family, relative that may be a great candidate to join the team here. Autism Walk. There's an Autism Walk on April 29th at the waterfront surrounding the Subaru Park. April 29th is going to begin at 10 a.m. We had registrations open for about 3 weeks. I think we closed it last Friday. We had roughly about 400 people register so far when we closed it. However, we do know that there's quite a bit of other individuals or teams who will come down to participate in the Autism Walk or register their team on the day of. So if you know someone who wants to participate, they can come to the waterfront April 29th. We're going to try to start the walk of the festivities at 10 a.m., but if they're looking to register to walk, please come down there early, more so like 9:30. We'll have tons of vendors, tons of educational information. And one thing that we wanted to do with the Autism Walk is we didn't just want to provide information for autism. I'm someone who knows individuals with autism, but respectfully, I do not have autism. So we wanted to make sure that others who may be coming down there would also see it as a benefit. So if you want some more information on breast cancer, if you need some more information for banking, or some of the other resources that we have here in Delaware County and the City of Chester with the human services, all of those individuals or vendors will be there and have a booth there to provide some information and resources and educational info for you and your family. Lastly, what I'll just speak on is what I believe is some form of a tactic that the receiver and their team have been using or are trying to use, and with this disincorporation that they put around yesterday. So if you're not aware of what disincorporation is, most certainly please look up on it. There's not many cities, and I tried to do my research, but I didn't see any city of our size that was incorporated and became disincorporated. Our size, we have 35,000 plus our population plus residents, fire, police service, and we pretty much hire and provide many of the services that we do for our community. Typically, when you see a disincorporated or unincorporated community, it's one that doesn't have a lot of residents. And if I'm going to look at some surrounding us, I will say, look at Parkside or look at Crumlin. Those areas are more so our communities that are unincorporated unincorporated, and they can be that way because they have a community or a neighborhood or a governance around them, like the City of Chester, that can provide resources to them without really taking the resources from our own community. I don't know, or I don't believe that the county and or the state will want to come in here and provide the resources and serve our residents. Not that they wouldn't want to, but it most certainly will be a whole lot for them to do something like that. And I don't think that Philadelphia will be busing their employees down here to provide those services either. So I really say that that's a far, far fetched type of statement that was made. Quite frankly, we're only 3 months into the year. 3 months into the year. Additionally to that, there are some things that was in the newspaper about how we're not willing to work with them. The city needs a large lump sum of money to get out of the hole that it's in. A large lump sum. I've been here for 6 years. The city has been in Act 47 distressed financially municipality since 1995. I wasn't thought of, at least not to be in this seat. Additionally to that, there were 2 recovery plans prior to 2012. And those administrations did not, I repeat, did not partake, did not update, didn't do anything with the recovery plans that was provided from DCED. The recovery coordinators will actually come to City Hall and sit in the benches downstairs because the elected officials would not even meet with them in 2012 or prior to 2012. After 2012, the recovery coordinators would come here and the finance team began to meet with these people from DCD to try to see how we can remedy some of the problems. There was someone said earlier that I don't know if we're not negotiators or we're not experts in negotiating and whatnot. I don't know, but what I will say is that in speaking about myself, I was a part of the team that negotiated in 2016 the FOP contract, the IAFF contract for the fire, and the Teamsters contract. So I was a part of those negotiations where we were able to find ways to reduce the overtime and also make sure that we were able to have something in the contract so that we can move the retirees over to a more financially savvy healthcare plan, which is a Medicare supplement plan. Someone asked about what are our plans or what has been done thus far. Well, when we moved those retirees, roughly at least to date that I know of, roughly about 130 retirees are moved over from a self-insured plan to a Medicare supplement plan. It saves the city roughly about $2 to $3 million a year. Addition to that, we also negotiated to make sure that we went from a fully insured Medicare medical plan to a self-insured medical plan. That additionally saves the city another $2 to $3 million a year. And I'll continue on with so many other things that has hindered the city from moving forward. I used to see individuals in a healthcare plan that did not work here in the city of Chester. I used to see people dependents on the healthcare plan that were no longer dependents, meaning they were above the ages of 23 or 26 or 25. They were probably in their 30s and 40s. Those are the steps that we've been able to take to reduce the expenditures and the liabilities here in the city of Chester. So the misinformation that continues to get put out is just ridiculous. And I feel sorry that some of us try to really believe the first thing that we say. I really do. Additionally, they say that we're not working with them. Listen, in business, some things you agree with and some things you don't. It just happens that way. Or sometimes we're trying to get from A to B, and we just don't think that the way that we should get to B is in that direction, but we have another way of getting there, and maybe we should try it this way. Things happen that way. Us as council, you have elected us to serve the residents, to serve you, and we're not up here just to be puppets. We're not. We live here. We want to make sure that we're here to move the city forward. And in doing so, we have to make sure that we stand up and stand up and voice our concerns, opinions, and suggestions in those meetings that we have with us and with the receivers and with the community as well, knowing that it's for the betterment of you all. But 3 things that was mentioned that they need to do to really try to make a difference financially. And again, whether it's the past administration, this administration, or the future administration, they're all going to have to deal with the same financial problem. It's an inheritance. We inherited this type of bad baggage since 1995. But 3 things they mentioned. They mentioned of negotiating the contracts with the unions. Well, again, I mentioned that I was a part of those things in 2016 where we were successful. And also we were trying to, we wanted to partake in those negotiations, but we haven't been able to partake in them because quite frankly, they asked us from those meetings and those conversations. So it's not that we restricted them from negotiating those agreements or contracts, but they didn't want us to be a part of that. So that's number 1. Number 2, they also spoke about the retirees. Obviously, they're trying to remove their health care and or reduce their pensions. And I'm not saying that I'm 100% in agreement, but I do think that we need to come to a settlement or agreement so that it's not as costly. The retirees' healthcare is most certainly very costly, but I don't think that we should do it in the way that they're doing it. And I support our police and fire unions and those retirees who work tirelessly to provide and do what they did for the city of Chester over the many years that they've worked here. And they've earned those funds as well. And then the last thing is the monetization of the water authority. As the mayor stated, the very first day that Receiver Dowry came here, they sat there at his desk and he provided him with he didn't call it a plan, he called it an offer, but it was something that was talked about and negotiated to come with some numbers so that can be provided to the city of Chester and ongoing revenue to the city of Chester. What I also know is that it probably shouldn't just be the water authority. It should also be conversations with Delcora as well, as far as how we can get continuous dollars here in the city of Chester. But the reason I bring up those three things, I'll speak for myself, but the other members of mayor and council may can say this. I'm not against any of those things. So I'm not sure, really certain what we're now working or cooperating with them with. Again, the next administrations have to go through those same settlements and negotiations, just like our administration or the previous administration. I'm here to work and do whatever is necessary to move the city forward. Ms. Zulene just said something about, she said, you can work with someone, but you don't have to like them. I 100% agree. When I was playing football, it's 11 individuals on the field, and I used to have two teammates that did not like each other. It was an offensive tackle and an offensive guard. They played directly next to each other. They hated each other. But when they got on the field, they knew that they were going for the common goal. And that was to smash whoever head was in front of them and hopefully to get a win. And if the receiver has the same intentions, or if he doesn't like us, I don't know, or if we don't like him, we most certainly can work with him still if they have a common goal to do what we need to do to provide for the city of Chester. And I'm all for that. With that, I yield and thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Let me close by saying a few things. Number one, I want to thank all of the groups that were here today to address council. We look forward to the partnership and working together and working to make Chester a better city. We can always do better, and we appreciate the support that is coming. To Miss Judy Richards. Miss Richards, welcome. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Richards and conversing with Miss Richards. As was stated by the councilman, she's our Deputy Director of Inspectors, and she has hit the ground running. She got a lot of running to do, but she hit the ground running. And so we welcome her here today and in the far future, and look forward to a lot of good work and partnerships and relationships. I own
If you give me a moment, I'll speak to you after, if I can help you. But I got you.
Thank you. I have two houses here in the city of Chester. One that was paid for and I was happy with, and when my wife said she wanted to move to another place, which kind of upset me, but we did. And so I have two properties here in the city. My daughter lives in my other property. I pay taxes on both of them. Just like everybody else, I do. I pay taxes on both of them. And it bothers me, and I apologize to an extent, but it bothers me when persons want to try to grandstand and they pay no taxes to this community. They come, they want to change everything in this community, but they put no finances into this community to help this community sustain itself. So if I seem a little irate, if I seem a little upset and angry when those type of persons approach me, I would hope that someone would ask them, what their taxes are and when is the last time they paid taxes in this city. I got documentation on that too. One of the things my mother taught me was keep documentation. She said, keep documentation for at least 7 years. I keep it for 10. And I keep documentation. So I want to be clear on that. The other thing is for some of the residents, before I get into this unincorporation.
I want to say is, like the mayor just said, it's tax season, so pay your taxes, pay your taxes, pay your taxes. There was someone who spoke today who roughly owes the city in taxes about $15,000+.
It's 22.
Pay your taxes. So that money, so we can do what we need to do. Thank you.
It's 22,000. Blocking of some of the streets during the games. I got a call from one of the council persons, one of the residents. I forget exactly what street it was down on Waterfront. But they said that their street was blocked off, and I called Tim McDermott, I think it's the vice president of operations there, and I said, Tim, the residents would appreciate it if you don't block their street and have someone up there, a guard or whatever, blocking the streets. And Tim's response was, we did it so that the fans wouldn't come to those certain streets, those residential areas, and park their cars. And so I called the person back. I said, they are willing to not do that anymore, but I want you to know why they did it. And she said, I don't care. I don't want them to block the street. Now, dollars to donuts if I was a betting person, but I'm not. If I was a betting person, as soon as those fans park down there, they're going to call me and say, okay, the fans are down here blocking the streets. So we're hoping to work out something with the soccer stadium. So everybody's not going to be happy. It's just not possible. Everybody's not going to be happy, but we're going to try to make as many people as happy as possible. The other day, the receiver and Mr. Kapoor talked about unincorporation. They talked about basically taking the authority away from the city officials and the city not being what it is and not really. Some folks even said Chester won't be a city anymore. And I heard all that. But before I really address that hard, I look at the receiver and Mr. Kapoor, and as the councilman said, they try to say that, and I heard my way or the highway. I don't know if that was directed at me, but if it is, let me clear it up. I got to vote up here just like everybody else. One, I can't outvote these persons. I have one vote. So it is never my way or the highway. It's the majority of council that either votes yay or nay. We have a new COO/CFO, Mr. Leitner. Why? Because collectively we worked along with the receiver to make that happen. We have reorganized in our departments. Collectively, we worked along with the receiver to make that happen. We have sat down and to allocate our ARPA funds along with the receiver and with Mr. VJ. Collectively, we have worked on a number of projects in this city together that they don't talk about. And we have been very successful in those efforts. Bottom line is, like someone said earlier, we're not going to agree on everything. Now, we just came from court. We went to court. And the receiver and his team was successful in the lower court of removing our authority as council members and sitting as directors of our various departments. We did the exact same thing they would have done if the shoe was on the other foot. We appealed it. And the judge in the highest court of Pennsylvania looked at it and said, I think there's some there. So the judge in the highest court in Pennsylvania said, let's put a stay here, put them back into their positions. The judge said it. Now, we're going to get mad because we're back in our elected positions, and to say that about professionalism and you're not professional enough to be a department head, well, I'll speak for me. 62% decrease in violent crime in this city over the past 2 years. I'm the department head of the police department. That's my commissioner of the police department. And we have city and elected officials coming to Chester, speaking to us, asking us, how did you reduce violent crime in your city like that? That's a department head working with the department head. So to say that we don't have the expertise or the will or the knowledge or the know all to run a department, that's insulting. That's insulting. When we have other communities coming to us and looking at our playbook and saying, how do you do it? I asked you to ask the receiver. Now, we talk about this unincorporation. We talk about that. Gloom and doom. I understand it's an election year. I know this man is running against me. I understand that. I get it. It's an election year. But don't push false narratives. When the receiver comes and says what he says, pushing those false narratives, watch this. When he attacks our workers, trying to put fear, there's a fear factor. That's fear factor. Oh, you're going to lose your jobs. Really? And I didn't got there. I said, did you go to our police department? Oh, you better do this or you're losing everything. Same thing with our firefighters. Fear factor. I'm going to scare the heck out of them. I'm going to scare them so much, they're going to submit. That's wrong. And then you think of what has been brought to this city by the receiver and his team. Now, nobody asks this question. What's the receiver's budget? What are the salaries for the receiver and his team? Nobody ever asks those questions. But they want to take from us, want our staff to work harder for less, and then want us to shut up and just do what they say. That's not happening. Nor is unincorporation going to happen. Why? Number one, we got more money in the Pennsylvania Rainy Day Fund right now than we've had in the history of Pennsylvania. $8 billion. $8 billion. So if you have $8 billion in a rainy day fund, the most money you've ever had in the history of Pennsylvania, how in the world do you allow the first city in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to go under? We willingly accepted him when Governor Wolf called. We willingly sat down with him and talked with him. We willingly walked him throughout this city and showed him different businesses, and I willingly opened my doors and showed him different plans. Willingly. What he did not tell you was how I'm sitting in on a meeting with the attorney, then the attorney general, who is now the governor, and how I'm sitting in on a meeting with the district attorney, Mr. Stolzheimer, and all these other individuals with law enforcement, and he busts in my meeting. He wasn't invited. He wasn't even supposed to be a part of my meeting, and then tried to refuse to leave. That's when I knew we were going to have a problem. I never busted in his meetings, ever. And so I think it's important that we know the truth, so when people start talking this rhetoric and start spreading these lies, you can't do that all the time, especially when you don't have the facts. I called the governor's office yesterday. I called Governor Shapiro's office yesterday, called him yesterday. I have a relationship with members of the House of Representatives. I served there for 24 years. Not only did I call the governor's office, I called the Speaker of the House, called her cell phone. I said, we need to sit down because I need to talk to you about how we help my city. And guess what? She said, tell me the date and the time. So if you hear that I'm not sitting down with the receiver because I don't think it's fruitful, I don't think he's been honest with you or me, I think he's involved himself in our politics. I know he has, especially when there's a meeting, yesterday's meeting, and I look at a Facebook, somebody posts Facebook, and on Facebook it says, y'all come on down because we need to find out what's going to happen after bankruptcy. I'm like, where did this come from? When the agenda said receivership 3 years later. And then he went into the bankruptcy and he went into unincorporation. He never spoke with us as a council before doing that. That was the first time we heard of it. If you're going to partner and work together, then do that. Let me finish by saying this. Don't think it's all right for you to take me to court and say a whole bunch of things about me and my community, negative things about me and my community in court, and then I'm not supposed to have a chance to sit up to say or speak or say anything. I have the paperwork and I'll share that with you as well, and I'm finished. We have what is called the MFRAC committee, and that deals with the municipal finances throughout our city. That committee is supposed to consist of 4 people. The 5th person is the receiver. That committee is supposed to consist of myself, Councilman Morgan, someone from the county, and someone from DCED. Every time we have, this is why I say I'm confused about who the receiver is. Every time we have these meetings, and all you got to do is look at them, you can roll back the tapes. Mr. Kapoor is doing all the talking. He's not a member. And then when I asked for my solicitor to be able to speak, the receiver pushed the mute button and wouldn't let my legal person speak on my behalf. It's not fair. It's not partnerships. That's not trying to help this community. Disincorporated, unincorporated, it's not going to happen. Chester's going to always be a city. And Chester's going to get the finances that it needs to move forward, especially under this leadership. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. This meeting is now adjourned.